stands in their way. Kickoff next. Welcome, everyone, under the bubble here in Minneapolis at the Metrodome. Today's battle in the Big Ten between the #5 Iowa Hawkeyes, 10-1 overall, against the 7-3 Golden Gophers of Minnesota, trying to rebound from 2 consecutive losses. Iowa and Ohio State, picture perfect in conference play. This is Iowa's final conference game. Ohio State with a matchup today in Illinois, finishing up next week against Michigan. Hello, everybody. I'm Mark Jones, along with Bob Davey. Thanks for coming aboard. Bob, the magnitude of today's game for Iowa is enormous. A win, they get a share of the Big Ten Conference title for the first time since 1990. A loss, it'll be a season that could have or should have been.
Mark, Iowa may be the story of the year in college football. Before the season, no one picked Iowa to finish in the top 25. In fact, most experts picked them to finish in the bottom half of the Big Ten. And they were playing a senior quarterback who never started before, and no one ever heard of him. Now, at the end of the season, they're rated 5th in the country and playing today to finish undefeated in the Big Ten. And that quarterback no one ever heard of, now he's a legitimate Heisman candidate.
You're, of course, referring to Brad Banks, the quarterback. 3.5 short years ago, he's playing junior college football in Mississippi. Nobody symbolizes the team's resurgence more than him.
Mark, Brad Banks has great statistics. He's #1 in the whole NCAA in passing efficiency. He's #1 in the Big Ten in total offense. But to really appreciate him, you have to see him play. He can run, he can throw, but what sets him apart, he makes great decisions, and he doesn't panic.
So many fans have made the trip from Iowa City hoping to witness this, the crowning moment in their season, 10-1 overall. And they are playing for Floyd of Rosedale, a series that began in earnest in 1935. Iowa won last year's game. Before that, Minnesota had won 3 consecutive contests between the two crews. Minnesota sent to kickoff as Iowa won the toss and decided to receive. The Hawkeyes have started on offense in 40 of the last 41 games. That is their custom. They have been very productive and proficient in putting points on the board on opening series. Here's C.J. Jones from the 4. And Jones is brought down short of 20 at the 18. Let's go downstairs to Holly Rowe.
Well, guys, we've done an awful lot of talking about Iowa, but don't forget, Minnesota off to a very respectable 7-3. Coach Mason told his players, when it's a rivalry game, throw the records out the window. Iowa's had all kinds of things to worry about this week. The Rose Bowl, whether or not Illinois can beat Ohio State. He said they're not worried about us. We're too small for the Hawkeyes to worry about. They want to disprove their coach and show that they're big enough to rise up against the Hawks today.
Yeah, Holly, a lot of the local prognosticators picking Iowa big time over Minnesota today. That's certainly motivation for the Golden Gophers. First down and 10. Clark in motion. Here's Branks on the roll. Complete to Hinkle at the far side, 35. First down for the Hawkeyes. Brad Banks, a 6'1 senior. We referred to him a few moments ago. 23 touchdown passes on the season to just 4 interceptions. And a look at the best buy backs and receivers. Russell, Cervantes, Hinkle on the catch, Jones and Clark. And Jones just one half of a great combo of receivers.
Tremendous balance in the receiving corps. Mo Brown, their leading receiver, 40 catches. He's not even listed in the starting lineup, Mark.
Both of them ready to set team records and school records today. First down and 10. Clark in motion again. They run the zone play to Fred Russell. And Russell has another Iowa first down at the 47-yard line. Russell running behind a big, strong, athletic offensive front. Gallery, Steinbeck, Nelson, Lightfoot, and Porter.
This is the foundation of Iowa's football team, is that offensive line, Mark. 3 first-round potential draft picks starting for Iowa.
Darrell Reed up front for the Minnesota defensive front, expected to make some big plays for the Gophers. First down and 10 after that pickup of 12 yards. Backs out of the eye, Cervantes and Jermel Lewis now in a tailback. Little motion up front and a flag down on the field.
Offside defense. 5-yard penalty, previous spot.
Let's take a further look at the Minnesota defense. Ben West is the team's leading tackler. He's joined by Vance and Terrence Campbell. And in the secondary, Lehan is the leader, the senior on the corner, along with Isom, Ward, and Dozier.
Keep your eye on Eli Ward, free safety, but he's Minnesota's second leading tackler, a physical football player.
First down and 5 for the Hawkeyes. Minnesota coming with a little pressure to blitz. Banks makes them pay to Clark. Dallas Clark all the way down to the 23-yard line. Finally brought down by Eli Ward, the All-American candidate, with a nice pickup of 25.
You can see right away why Iowa's so difficult to stop. Off the great run fake, Brad Banks on the boot, and he's going to hit the tight end, Dallas Clark, on the crossing route. The run sets up the pass. Difficult mark on 1st and 5 to call defenses. Iowa scripts their first 15 plays of the game.
Right now the script really working out well. Russell back in at tailback. This is little Fred Russell finding a gaping hole, just calling his name. Russell inside the 10, got a nice block up front, and a pickup of 13. The Hawkeyes off and rolling big time.
You're going to see Iowa's bread and butter, the zone play, and they come off and run the zone. You're going to see a great block right here by David Porter, and Fred Russell cuts it back behind him. Mark, all year we've said this, the best zone blocking team in the country is the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Great athletes up front. 4 plays and 4 first downs for Iowa. Russell set deep, about 8-9 yards behind the line of scrimmage. And here's the diminutive Fred Russell, making a house call. Touchdown, Hawkeyes.
Mark, I think Fred Russell likes this artificial surface up here in Minnesota. But once again, you see him cut back completely against the grain, bounce the ball outside, and just beat Minnesota's defenders into the end zone.
That was his 9th rushing touchdown this season. Is number 3 in the Big Ten, 8th nationally in rushing yardage. Man, the Iowa Hawkeyes, Bob Davie, came out and punched Minnesota in the mouth on this opening series. They got roses on their mind, and the future's certainly looking rosy. The deuce is on the loose, and the Gophers might be in trouble. We'll be right back after this. A very impressive 5-play, 80-yard drive, eclipsing 2:16 on the clock. Fred Russell running it into the end zone and capping a pattern of first-quarter prominence for the Hawkeyes this year. Kading kicks it all the way down into the end zone, 1 yard deep. He's going to run it out and brought down short of the 10 at the 9-yard line. Assad Abdul-Khalik, the starting quarterback, 6', 210-pound junior, has struggled the last couple of weeks, but has some pretty good stats.
Mark, both staffs have told us Assad Abdul-Khalik, hot and cold. He can be as good as there is, and sometimes he can be as bad as there is. It's important for him to start off quickly in this football game.
Terry Jackson, the leader in the backfield, averaging 6 yards per carry, along with Tepe, Burns, Matthews, and Ben Utecht, a great weapon at tight end. The best 5 backs and receivers. First down and 10 for Minnesota. See if they can answer that impressive opening drive by the Hawkeyes. Danny Upchurch brought down for a loss of about 2. Colin Cole, let's take a look at the offensive front. Carter, Setterstrom, Esslinger, Quinn, and Jake Cuppy.
You can see the true freshman center, Esslinger. He looks like a true freshman center, doesn't he, Mark? He looks very young.
Still got the Snoopy lunchbox. Hodges, Klaus, Cole, who made the tackle a few moments ago, and Matt Roth getting the start. Second down and 12. 3 receivers out on this formation. Jackson, the lone back, and a little motion up front.
I believe we're going to have motion here on Minnesota. The start of this football game is definitely not how Glenn Mason scripted the start of this football game, Mark.
Prior to the snap, ball start offense. After this is the goal, second down.
Let's take a look at the linebackers for Iowa. Grant Steen, Fred Barr, the team's leading tackler, and Kevin Worthy.
They love the leadership of Fred Barr. He stepped up as a senior, not only the leading tackler, Mark, but has had a great season from a leadership standpoint.
Speaking of great seasons, Bob Sanders and Derek Pagel, the safeties, the corners coming along well, too. Second down and 16. We are in Minneapolis, but it almost sounds like an Iowa home game with all the fans that have made the trip from Iowa City. Abdul Khalid completes the pass into the boundary. Complete to Jared Ellerson.
Mark.
Here's a look at the problems they had last week in special teams. One of the snaps over the punter's head, and then another one blocked against Michigan. Michigan defeated Minnesota 41-24. Should it come to fourth down, those will be some of the things we'll have to look out for. This is third down and 5. Abdul Khalid, incomplete. And it'll be fourth down on the 3 and out. The punter is Preston Greening. He's a senior. And there's a look at the long snapper.
Mark, this sets up an interesting matchup that we talked about earlier. Not only has Minnesota had problems punting the football, Iowa has also blocked 2 punts this year. Peter Pruden, number 57, is once again the long snapper for Minnesota. Last week they benched him. He's back again.
This one gets back and a little bit of heat as the Hawkeyes came after it a little bit. And it takes an Iowa bounce down to the 43-yard line. Reese Davis is getting hot in here. Back to you.
Mark, and it's hot a lot of places around the Big Ten. Lloyd Carr said the truth about his team would be how they finished. Taking on Wisconsin this afternoon over on ESPN2. Early on, B.J. Askew. 2 straight 100-yard games, goes 27 here. Chris Perry's gone in after an Anthony Davis fumble. Michigan laying the wood already, 14-0. And Purdue, how good would they be if they could just hang on to the ball? Their 29th turnover puts Michigan State up 3-0.
All right, Reese, Wisconsin, Purdue, and Michigan State all looking at hope still of making it to a bowl game. First down and 10. Iowa's second offensive possession of the game. Little play fake, Banks to pass. And this is where he can hurt you in the open field. Brad Banks on the move and brought down to the 37-yard line. Brad Banks giving you that added dimension of mobility.
You're going to see the predicament that Minnesota has. You see Eli Ward, the free safety, number 27, down in the box, playing 8-man front. Obviously, Minnesota in man-to-man coverage. Fred Banks makes the defensive end miss, and now he's off and running in the open field. But Minnesota has to play 8-man front to stop the run. They have to be able to match up, Mark, and play man-to-man on C.J. Jones and Mo Brown, those 2 wide receivers from Iowa, though.
Brad Banks still perfect passing the ball. Going back to last week, he's now 12 for 12. And here he is to throw again. And that is his first incompletion in the game and a quarter, broken up by Justin Isom, the strong safety, and Banks got rocked after the pass. He is so vital.
Once again, Banks comes with the play action. You're going to see Paul Nixon, the undersized defensive end. Not a great lick, but enough of a distraction right there where Brad Banks underthrows the ball. And Mark, you're right. He had 12 straight completions before that incompletion right there to Dallas Clark.
Yeah, the Big Ten's Offensive Player of the Week from last week. The nation's leader in pass efficiency. Third down and 4. Mo Brown in motion. They run the bubble screen. Jones stopped up short of the first down back at the 37-yard line by Charlton Keith.
Iowa #1 in the Big Ten in third down efficiency. You see one of the reasons, a diversified scheme. There they had what they wanted. Minnesota in straight man coverage. They throw the jailbreak screen. Great job by Minnesota just rallying and getting them on the ground.
In comes David Bradley, the punt, averaging 39 yards per on the season. With a long of 54. He's got 18 of them inside the 20. See what he does here. He'll try and hang it up. And it took a little too healthy of a bounce. Goes into the end zone, 37 yards in all. The Gophers will start off on their own 20-yard line for their second offensive possession. Abdul Khalik trying to catch fire when we come back.
ESPN's presentation of college football brought to you by Straight Line Laser Level. Bring your work to a new level. And by Best Buy. For the latest technology, turn on the fun at Best Buy.
You know, when they're not studying, the grad students here at Minnesota usually get together, play a little bit of croquet. That day off the mark, but the offense, Bob Davie, could use one of those hammers or mallets against Iowa right now. 1st and 10. Asad Abdul Khalik gonna run it himself. Run out of bounds at the 26-yard line by Grant Steen. Let's go back to Reese.
All right, Mark, Syracuse on a 3-game winning streak after starting 1-6. Boston College and the Orange. This is Brandon Brokaw going in for the Eagles. This is looking for their first Big East win of the season. They're up 7-3 in the first. Tom Simon.
All right, Reese, you know, Asad Abdul Khalik graduated from Fort Union Military Academy in 1998, where he broke a lot of Vinny Testaverde's passing records there. 2nd down and 2. They're going to run it. Thomas DePay over the left side, close to the first down at the 31-yard line, brought down by number 31, Matt Roth.
A key to this football game, Mark, can Minnesota run the ball against a good defense like Iowa? Iowa's only had one team this year, Indiana, that rushed for over 100 yards. Minnesota, on the other hand, 7 of the 10 games they've rushed for over 200 yards, but against the good teams, 53 yards against Ohio State and 127 yards against Michigan. So can they run against a good defense like Iowa is the question.
Number 2 in the nation against the run. Here's Abdul Khalik. Looking up top, hangs it up. And it's out of bounds, incomplete. Asad Abdul Khalik has been facing a lot of local criticism, not only from media types, but from a lot of fellow students who have been sending him some very critical, almost hateful, borderline hateful email during the last week. But Glenn Mason staunchly defending his starting quarterback, saying he is putting it all on the line.
Glenn Mason knows what a lot of people on the outside don't know. Khalik has been injured all year with an ankle injury, played through an injury that a lot of players would not have played with.
2nd down and 10. They hand it off to Thomas DePay. DePay chopped down at the 31-yard line. It'll be 3rd down and long. And we talked about the great run defense by Iowa. Minnesota, meanwhile, number 1 in the Big Ten rushing offense.
Key again, though. 234 yards a game rushing. Who did they rush against? And Glenn Mason will be the first one to tell you the big test is today. A couple weeks ago, they went into Ohio State, an undefeated football team, Mark. They rushed for 53 yards.
They've dropped 2 games in a row, trying to get back on track. 3rd down and long, 9 to go. 3 receivers on the formation. Abdul Khalik. Incomplete into heavy traffic. It'll be 4th down and 9. They'll punt. It was intended for Antoine Burns. Grant Steen, very active defensively for the Hawkeyes.
You're going to see Iowa right here, something that's unique. They don't play nickel. And you're going to see Grant Steen, the outside linebacker, make a play like he's a defensive back. Antoine Burns comes back to the football, but Grant Steen, they keep the linebacker in the game, Mark. Most teams put a nickel back in there.
Norm Parker pressing all the right buttons, screening to punt. Preseason All-American. Great guy watch list and kicks it right to Ed Hinkle, who was the special teams player of the week last week in the Big Ten, out to the 40-yard line. College Football Saturday continuing tonight on ESPN with 2 games from the SEC. South Carolina taking on number Florida. They've lost 8 consecutive times down in the swamp. And last week's miracle win by LSU keeps them in the driver's seat in the SEC West. Alabama visits Death Valley in prime time. Don't miss College Football Saturday, presented by the U.S. Postal Service. What a finish last week, Bob. Incredible.
Have you ever seen anything like that? Not only does Guy Morris already have the Gatorade plunge, the students are on the goalpost, taking the goalpost down. 1st down and 10.
Brad Banks hands it off to Fred Russell. Fred Russell brought down to the 44. Gain of about 4 on the play. More Big Ten happening. Back with Reese.
Purdue's got that offense going and so far hanging on to the football. Second best offense in the Big Ten statistically behind the Iowa Hawkeyes. Here goes Joey Harris against Michigan State. Purdue needs to win out in order to become bowl eligible, and they are up on the Spartans in the first quarter, 7-3.
See what you have done. You talk about a team, Bob, where there's games have been so close. Purdue has lost some heartbreakers.
Purdue next year, I know this season isn't over, but Purdue next year is going to be really a good football team, Mark.
2nd and 6. Fred Russell, nice little stutter step, patiently waiting to get the hole. Stopped up just shy of the first down near midfield by Eli Warden. Somebody blew a tire. Like one of the big guys up front, Eric Steinbach, the left guard.
You're going to see Iowa right here. They don't run many isolation plays, but they put the fullback Cervantes on the linebacker right there. Bradley Vance. Mark, Iowa normally a zone blocking team. There they go to more of an isolation play, isolate the fullback on the linebacker, and the little tailback Fred Russell finds a crack.
Bob, he looks quicker on the rug, doesn't he?
You knew he would, Mark.
3rd down and 1. Jones in motion. They give it to Russell again. He has the first down and then some. Fred Russell out of Romulus, Michigan, moves the chains down to the 37-yard line. Ward once again making the tackle. What a season for number 2.
Iowa playing some I formation 2-back football. Here they come with the zone, and you don't want your free safety making the tackle 10 yards deep, particularly, Mark, on a 3rd and 1. So Iowa, isolation play, come back with the zone.
That picture, folks, one of the few times you won't see Fred Russell smiling. As Brad Banks, his teammate, says,
look at how deep he is in the backfield.
If he ain't smiling, something's wrong. That's what Banks says, and he gives him the bill here. Well, brought down that time for a loss near the 40-yard line by Justin Fraley, number 12, and Isom as well.
Interestingly, Mark, Minnesota 3rd in the Big Ten in total defense. Not a big defense, really kind of an undersized defense. You see Isom, the strong safety there, he's about 5'8". They have smallish linebackers, but they really run to the ball. And I think the positive thing, Minnesota, 10 of 11 starters back next year.
Yeah, their coach says defense is getting a little bit better, a little bit on the smaller side, though. This is arguably the best team they've faced this year, though. Brad Banks. What a move. Brad Banks down to the 25-yard line. He broke him off a little something. Campbell finally making the tackle on the play.
I'm going to give you an interesting statistic, Mark. On the predetermined quarterback runs, which this is, Brad Banks making the linebacker Campbell miss, showing his elusiveness. He is averaging 13 yards a carry on predetermined quarterback run calls. Think about that, 13 yards a carry.
And got 15 on that one. He's productive when put in that position. Maybe a little late for the Heisman, but who knows? Brad Banks certainly worthy, especially when it comes down to leadership. Here's the reverse for Brown, and they read it well. Brown brought down at the 29 by Paul Nixon. We're here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, at the Metrodome. Number 5, Iowa, taking on Minnesota. I'm Mark Jones, along with Bob Davey. Holly Rowe down to the sidelines. Today's game huge for the Iowa Hawkeyes, looking to close out Big Ten Conference play, picture perfect, and potentially a Rose Bowl berth. The touchdown play on the opening drive, courtesy of number 2, Fred Russell. And that's where we stand right now. The score, 7-0. This is Iowa's 3rd offensive series.
Minnesota's defense has been put in difficult situations because Minnesota's offense has been 3-and-out both series. Here they are again with their backs to the wall.
Banks was looking to set up the screen, in trouble, and wisely throws it away. Let's go back to Reese in the studio.
All right, Mark, Boston College and Syracuse, and I think Coach will agree with this. You got a DB out in the open field against the tight end. He needs to go low. Don't get high and get dragged. Ryan St. Pierre, Sean Ryan. Here comes Goodwill Hunter, going to go low. Whoop! Sean Ryan up and over Will Hunter. Watch Will go low and try to take his knees. Ryan will have none of it. BC got a field goal. It's 10.
Mark, I think Minnesota's defense now, an excellent job of pressuring Brad Banks. You can see right there on the graphic, Iowa's offense has only given up 11 sacks this whole season. Minnesota with good pressure so far on the quarterback.
Third down, 14 to go. Banks patiently fires incomplete at the 15-yard line. Intended for Ed Hinkle, who is covered nicely by Yuki Dozier. And in comes Nate Kading now to attempt the field goal, arguably the best kicker in the nation this year. 19 of 20 on the season, and he had an incredible streak going before finally missing one against Wisconsin.
And that was the last field goal he attempted, but I watched him here in pregame. He loves the indoor aspect of no wind. He loves that flat surface. He is licking his chops with this ball right in the middle of the field.
I'm surprised Ferentz didn't let him try one on the last sequence. Would have been close to 60, but he's got great leg strength. From 47 yards out, Kading pushed it off to the right. Just his second miss of the season.
Maybe he kicks better in the wind, Mark.
Nate Kading, now 19 of 21 on the season. Push this one just a little bit to the right. And Minnesota has the ball when we come back. They trail 7-0. Assad Abdul-Khalik, 6-foot junior quarterback, trying to catch fire here. Second on the school's list in career touchdown passes coming into the game. First down and 10 for the Golden Gophers. He fakes it to Tepay, completes it to Tony Patterson. Patterson with a first down at the 41. Let's go downstairs to Holly.
Guys, the defensive starter, Jonathan Babineau, for Iowa, is missing on the defensive line today. He has gone home to Port Arthur, Texas, to attend the funeral of his grandfather. In his place, Matt Roth getting the start. This is a little bit of a factor, though. He has not missed a start. Only one player on the defense has missed a start all year on that defensive line, and that's today.
Yeah, Holly, and Roth has an incredible streak of 1 sack in each of the last 5 games. So
Mark, I'm a little surprised that Thomas Tepay, so much action at tailback. Gary Jackson can lose in this game, averaging 116 yards a game.
And up from his safety spot, Bob Sanders almost made the play behind the line of scrimmage. Roth finally brought him down, but number 33, right there on your screen, Bob Sanders, maybe the hardest hitter in all of college football, came in there like a missile, knifing through the offense.
Mark, you're right. Iowa has 2 excellent safeties, and right here you see Bob Sanders come up and wrestle Thomas Tepay. Actually missed the tackle, and then you're going to see Matt Roth from his defensive end position with great pursuit. But Bob Sanders, a very physical football player, as is Derek Pagel, number 25, Iowa's free safety.
Second down and 10. Abdul-Khalik has a lot of time. Fires incomplete and a flag down. Antoine Allen a little too close to Tony Patterson. But Abdul-Khalik finding some precious time by moving around in the pocket. And it's against the defense.
An obvious pass interference, Mark. You see once again how advantageous it is to have a quarterback that can scramble, buy time. Abdul-Khalik looks like the ankle's healthy.
A lot of pressure on the quarterback. We mentioned that a few moments ago. Last week, had 2 passes dropped by his receivers and had to throw 2 passes away.
And interestingly, coming into the Big Ten season, or into this football season, Abdul-Khalik, all the headlines, all the conversation. Brad Banks, on the other hand, relative obscurity, comes into it unknown. And Khalik dealing with the expectations and the pressure as well as the injuries, Mark.
Still the unquestioned leader of the team. They look for the halfback option. And now they're going to run it. There's a flag down in the play. Upchurch. Brought down near the first down to the 32. And it's a first down. They pick the flag up.
Glenn Mason loves the trick play. And right there you can see with momentum coming his way a little bit, he wanted the halfback pass. Upchurch, an excellent job, though, of not just throwing the football into traffic and just getting what he could get out of it.
Going a quick count, and Colin Cole wasn't having it. He doesn't play that. Let's go back to Reese.
Mark, number 10 has been hard to come by from North Carolina State. Lost 2 in a row, taking on Virginia. Here is Matt Shaw from the Cavaliers, firing to a wide open Ottawa Anderson. NC State's on the move right now, though. Cavs are up 7-0.
All right, Reese and Colin Cole making the stop a few moments ago. What would have happened to this Iowa defensive front had he given in to his homesickness his freshman year? Stayed on and has had a great career, a stellar career at Iowa. 2nd down and 11. Abdul Khalik to pass. Run out of bounds just inside the 30 at the 29-yard line. And folks, tomorrow night, it's an AFC rematch in prime time. Remember this? Ooh. New England against Oakland. Oakland has the top-ranked offense in the league. Rich Gannon last week had 20. Was any quarterback better on Sunday, Bob Davie, than Gannon? 21 straight passes against Denver. And then everyone remembers what happened last year against New England, that controversial call.
There was a clinic last week against Denver.
Oh.
And Denver, a good defensive football team. But at that point, you're at Rich Gannon's mercy when he's that hot with that short passing scheme.
3rd down and 8 for Minnesota. Abdul Khalik has a man. 1st down, Golden Gophers at the 12-yard line. Ben Utek.
Ben Utek, a converted wide receiver, 6'6". An NFL scout told me before the game, right now he's a 1st or 2nd round draft choice. He finds a soft spot in the zone. Once again, Abdul Khalik staying alive with his legs, buys time against zone coverage. Utek sits down. A great sign for Minnesota, Mark. Abdul Khalik off to a fast start. Both coaching staffs told us he is a streaky football player.
Picked up 17 yards, looked poised on the move right there, too. Sold a great fake. With a knee touched on the pass back at the 11, Utek again. And one thing I noticed, Bob, early in this ball game is that Asad Abdul Khalik at quarterback, really a good ball handler, isn't he?
A lot like Brad Banks. And Mark, you can notice the similarities in the offense. The slow developing zone or stretch play, then the boots off of the stretch play. Both teams very similar.
Watches a lot of film work deep into the night and early into the morning. Does his homework. Moving in on a school record. 2nd down and 9. 3-receiver formation for the Gophers. Complete to Burns. Still on his feet. Fighting. Touchdown, Minnesota. What an effort. Burns with his 4th touchdown reception this season. And they're an extra point from tying it up.
The Gopher crowd came to life with that tremendous individual effort right there by Antoine Burns, Mark.
The offense firing on all cylinders on that sequence. Meticulously working their way downfield under the leadership of Asad Abdul Khalik with a 17th touchdown pass this season. But what an effort by Antoine Burns. One of 12 seniors.
Tremendous individual effort right here. Antoine Burns catches the football. You see Bob Sanders and Antoine Allen have him sandwiched, but he does a tremendous job of staying alive. And Mark, this effort right here to get that football across the end zone, that's what creates upsets. Those kind of effort plays on senior day. Antoine Burns, a senior, tremendous effort.
Undeniable, unstoppable, and unflappable. Antoine Burns kept his head about him even though he lost his helmet. And we are tied at 7 apiece. An incredibly electric atmosphere here at what some people would call a sometimes very staid and sterile Metrodome. Not today, folks. This place is alive.
Mark, I didn't know much about this before coming up here, but this is a huge rivalry. Not only do they play for Floyd the Pig, but there's a lot more to it than that. Iowa looks at Minnesota like the rich kids from the big city. Minnesota looks at Iowa like the little guys from the country, or at least that's how it's been portrayed to me. So these fans get after each other.
Hey, listen, those little people from the country in Iowa City, they invaded the Mall of America last night, and one of my shopping sources at the Mall of America, Holly Row, indicated that there were a few Iowa fans scalping their tickets, Minnesota fans scalping their tickets to some of the Iowa fans. Reese Davis, kind of like how Notre Dame sold out a few years ago against Nebraska, huh?
That will happen every now and then when you get a team fired up and ready to pull a big one. 14-0. Michigan and Wisconsin. Wolverines punting away. Short kick. Jim Leonard second in the Big Ten in punt return average. Going to help that average. 37 yards to the house. Badgers has got a turnover from the Wolverines. They're back in it at 14-7.
Hey, next week on the docket for this Minnesota team, Bob Davie, a game at Wisconsin for Paul Bunyan's Axe. Kind of difficult for Minnesota to have two big rivalry games back-to-back. What do you think?
I think so. Mark. Excellent point.
First down and 10. See if Brad Banks can respond. Fred Russell doing his best. His game speaking volumes. Fred Russell all the way down to the 12-yard line. Back at you.
Russell, the ball carrier, tackled by 39, lead in.
A well-conceived play, Mark. You are going to see right here. They give the ball on the zone, but they fake the reverse. And that holds the defensive end, Paul Nixon, from closing. He has to play the reverse, and then they're going to break that football back against the grain right here. So the reverse held the defense. Fred Russell, he's like the air out of the balloon on this run, Mark.
The momentum swinging back into Iowa's favor. A career-long 53-yard run for Russell. Here's Lewis. Brought down inside the 10 at the 7-yard line by Justin Isom. A great 1-2 combination punch with Russell and Lewis. They give you different things, Bob.
Jamel Lewis, a little bigger, a little stronger. I remember this conversation, Mark, early in the season. Kirk Ferentz told us Jamel Lewis may be the most talented tailback on this team. So they don't lose a whole lot when Jamel Lewis comes in the football game for Fred Russell.
Second down and 4. Cervantes, the fullback, a great blocker, the lead block. Run a little option. Lewis heading for the edge. Touchdown, Iowa.
You're going to see Iowa come with the zone option. Cervantes, the lead blocker, out on the perimeter. And a great effort by Jamel Lewis getting the football into the end zone. Iowa, a good diversified scheme, Mark. And why? It didn't take them long to answer.
Just 3 plays after Minnesota scored. The Hawkeyes march it down the field. Lewis with his 8th rushing touchdown this season. Kading knocks through the extra point. And the Hawkeyes lead 14-7, playing for potentially a berth in the Rose Bowl, hoping to stay perfect in conference play for the first time in 80 years.
This is a great shot of the zone option. Right here, Brad Banks down the line. Dallas Clark out in front getting the block. He pitches the football off the defensive end, and Jamel Lewis then goes north and south into the end zone.
That was Iowa's 12th scoring drive this season of 3 plays or less.
Great football teams, Mark, have a way of responding. And Iowa right there answered the bell. Momentum definitely on Minnesota's side after the tremendous effort by Antoine Burns. But Iowa comes right back. Fred Russell and the Hawkeyes so explosive as a football team, particularly on this fast track in this Metrodome.
You mentioned the fast track. This is their first game all season on AstroTurf.
The only one that doesn't like it, Nate Kading.
Here's Kading's kickoff. High and short for him. Down to the 4. Mays out near the 30 at the 28-yard line. Nice return by Jermaine Mays. Well, we want to welcome the airmen assigned to the United States Air Forces in Europe watching this telecast on the American Forces Network, including the 31st Red Horse Civil Engineering Squadron at Camp Darby in Livorno, Italy. Thanks for all that you do, and we want to send out crazy love and mad love to all of the servicemen and women helping us out with our interests abroad and domestically. First down and 10 for Minnesota. So far it's been a game of how well you can counterpunch. Terry Jackson in it back. A flag down back at the 27-yard line. Jackson brought down to the 36. Jackson listed as the starter, but it was Danny Upchurch that actually got the first carry of the ball game for the Minnesota Golden Gophers, and this one is going to go against Minnesota.
Self-inflicted mistakes and penalties right here by Minnesota, particularly on 1st and 10. We see Terry Jackson in the football game. Minnesota comes with the stretch play right there. You're going to see Scooter Bogus, the tight end, holding Howard Hodges. Good call right there. And that sets back Minnesota to 1st and 20, Mark.
Glenn Mason, always a coach that believes that the future is now. Loves the big stage. And really has gotten his team ready for the challenge at hand today.
And a big coaching job, Mark. They come into this game 7-3, but because they've lost the 2 games, most recent games, it's like they're 3-7. So a big coaching job by Glenn Mason this week to keep his team positive.
Yeah, setting the tenor and the mood just right for the Gophers. The first 15 minutes in the books for Lewis and Russell. 45 minutes away from a perfect season in conference play. Welcome back, everyone, to the Metrodome in Minneapolis for the beginning of the second quarter between number 5 Iowa and Minnesota. Hawkeyes with the lead, hoping to stay undefeated in conference play and potentially earn a trip to the Rose Bowl. First down and 20. Abdul Khalik complete. Brought down at the 21-yard line is Tony Patterson. Let's take a look at our Gateway Game Track. Some of the cogent points of the game so far. Fred Russell with 108 yards rushing already to go along with a touchdown. That one was the first score of the game in the first quarter, and nobody hits the snooze bar for Iowa. They come out of the gate ready to play football. Look what they've done in the first quarter this year, outscoring their opponents. Second down and 16 for the Gophers. Asad Abdul Khalik escapes. Almost had it picked off by Bob Sanders at the 38-yard line. He tried to find Tony Patterson.
Asad Abdul Khalik once again staying alive. Mark, for Minnesota to win this football game, Khalik has to have a great day. Minnesota #1 in the Big Ten in rushing offense, but dead last in passing offense. If you notice, they do a lot of quick 3-step drops. 2 things. Khalik has to be accurate, and they also have to run after the catch and make some big plays against this Iowa defense.
Third down and 16. Khalik out of the shotgun. Pressure off the edge, and he's hit and brought down. Howard Hodges sacked him back at the 15-yard line. They say they should have the ball, too. And Iowa has first down at Minnesota's 15 on the fumble.
This is a tough matchup. Number 75, Jake Cuppy, 350 pounds. Howard Hodges probably 240 and quick. Howard Hodges takes advantage of the matchup, just speed rushes him, strips the football out, and recovers it. Iowa with great field position right here.
Howard Hodges, one of the real surprises on defense for the Hawkeyes this year. Some people question his size. But Kirk Ferentz said, you know what, he's big enough and he's good enough for us.
That was his 9th sack of the year, Mark. You can see how Minnesota has to stay out of long yardage passing situations.
Yeah, they just teed off. First down and 10. Fred Russell just dancing through the opposition down to the 11-yard line. For more on Hodges, let's go to Holly.
Well, guys, Howard Hodges is small, and that was a problem for Minnesota, or for Iowa. They didn't know where to put him, linebacker or end, so he played all over the place on demo Ohio team, he disrupted their practice every single day. They decided they didn't care where he played. They just had to get him on the starting side of the ball. He's played linebacker and defensive end. They'll play him wherever they can just to keep him on the field.
Great point, Holly. And being on that scout team as a young player develops young players. It's one of the best things. They have to wait your turn, pay your dues, learn to be a football player on that scout team every day.
They run the option into the boundary. Banks on his feet. Touchdown, Hawkeyes. Brad Banks smelled the end zone.
We talked about Brad Banks averaging 13 yards on predetermined quarterback runs. Mark, another example on the zone option. He keeps the football, but let's go back to Howard Hodges. But let's go back 2 plays before. The holding penalty on Minnesota that got them into the 3rd and long, which created the Howard Hodges matchup on Jake Cuppy. Sack, turnover, Iowa scores to go up 21-7.
Hayden's extra point is good. The Iowa Hawkeyes leaving nothing to chance. Running hard and with authority. Brad Banks with another touchdown on the year. We'll be back. Iowa looking for a berth potentially in the Rose Bowl. Number 5 in the country taking on Minnesota with the lead. I'm Mark Jones along with Bob Davey. Holly Rowe down in the field. Brad Banks with a touchdown run, his 6th of the year just a few moments ago. Doing a great job running and passing, mixing it up offensively. Banks, remember, ran for 2 touchdowns last week in a romp over Northwestern. This one goes through the end zone. Let's take one more look at that touchdown run.
When we go back, Mark, and look at this zone option on the touchdown, a couple key points. One, Dallas Clark hooks Lossley, the defensive end. The second thing, watch the block by Cervantes on the free safety, Eli Ward. And last, the thing that makes me nervous, and I've watched it all year, Brad Banks hanging that football out. I keep waiting for somebody to strip it out of there. He needs to hold that thing a little bit closer to his body. He swings it around.
That thing was really out there. Flapping. Made it, though. 1st down and 10. That touchdown set up by a fumble by Asad Abdul-Khalik. That was Thomas to pay. Brought down after a gain of about 1 by Cole. Let's go to Reese.
All right, Mark, Michigan State and Purdue, and the Spartans down 7-3 in the 1st. On the move, here's David Richard going in for the touchdown. You guys hear about this Sacramento State thing where all the jerseys are sprayed with Pam? Clearly, the Purdue footballs are sprayed with Pam. They fumbled twice with goal to go. Michigan State stops them. 2 turnovers already for the Boilermakers. They're down by 3.
Morris Watts, Coach of the Year. The vote's in yet?
Turned it around. 2nd and 9. Pass complete. Antoine Burns with a catch, a yard short of the 1st down. Of course, if you spray your jerseys with that stuff, Bob, you can always fry an egg on yourself after the game, right?
Mark, I remember back in the day, all those things. You know, you put those jerseys real tight to your body, particularly the defensive players and offensive linemen. You used to grease them up pretty good.
Coming clean a little bit. 3rd down and 1.
Well, we never did that.
Oh, okay. All right.
But I was told some opponents did.
Oh, okay. Minnesota 1 of 4 on 3rd down situations today. Abdul-Khalik on the rollout. Had a nice block from Tepe and almost picked off by Bob Sanders, intended for Tony Patterson. And it's 3 and out for Minnesota. But Bob Sanders has been all over the field today, Bob.
But let's go back to the call, Mark. 3rd down and 1. Minnesota, the #1 rushing offense in the Big Ten. At some point when it's 3rd and 1 and you are the #1 rushing offense in the Big Ten, don't you have to run the football right there?
That's what the trend would indicate.
And right now we're back to Minnesota's biggest problem, punting the football.
Iowa coming after it again a little bit. Henkel calls for the fair catch at the 27-yard line. We're going to take a short break with the Hawkeyes leading 21-7. And Brad Banks maybe collecting a few more Heisman ballots along the way. We'll be back.
ESPN's presentation of college football, brought to you by GMC. We are professional grade. And by eBay, the world's marketplace.
Welcome back, everyone, here to the Metrodome in Minneapolis. I'm Mark Jones, along with Bob Davey and Holly Rowe. The score 21-7. Iowa with the lead and the ball, and their quarterback, Brad Banks, weaving a real masterpiece. First down and 10. Jones in motion. They hand it off to Fred Russell. Out to the 27-yard line. Brad Banks, going back to last week, has been red hot. 10 of 10 last week and continuing that trend right now.
The thing you see is the versatility. He can throw on the run. In fact, last week, they only dropped back and threw 3 times. You see the quarterback draw, averaging 13 yards a carry. You see the zone option. Total package. Iowa right now, Mark, with 192 total yards in this football game. There's 11 minutes left in the second quarter.
Banks hands it off. Fred Russell with an education and acceleration. Fred Russell with a first down at the 44-yard line. Boy, the turbo kicked in.
Iowa comes back with the slow lead draw play. Good block by Cervantes. And watch how difficult it is to find Fred Russell up in that hole. Isom misses the tackle. Another look at it coming right at you. Wow.
Bob, some gaudy numbers already by Fred Russell. 11 rushes for a total of 129 yards. Jamel Lewis now taking his place as Russell gets a breather. Clark in motion. Banks going up top on the post. And he overthrows C.J. Jones, and he had him open. Banks knows it. Just missing his cousin by a couple of yards.
One thing we noticed, Minnesota is susceptible to the post. They play quarters coverage, but they let the corner play outside. And you're going to see the deep post. They gave up a deep touchdown to Ohio State, Mark, on this same play. You see right there, the post is wide open. Brad Banks a little bit late delivering that football, though.
Sets up a second down and 10 at a Belgrade, Florida Central High School, which has produced some pretty good players. Second down and 10. He hands it off this time. They give Cervantes a bone. And you know what? The fullback's got to get his once in a while, Bob Davey. You like to see that, don't you?
Well, when he gets it, Mark, he better take advantage of it, too, because he doesn't get many. But Cervantes has turned into a good football player. Good lead blocker. And you're right. You got to reward him every once in a while. Give him a little piece of candy.
Third down and 4. There's Coach O'Keefe, Ken O'Keefe, the offensive coordinator, who's been pulling all the right strings on the season.
He has done a great job this year. They have one of the best offensive line coaches in the country, Joe Philbin, who came to Iowa from Harvard.
Third down and 4. Minnesota coming with a blitz. Banks completes it underneath to Ochoa, and it's right near the first down marker. Looks like he has it from our vantage point, right at the 46.
You're going to see Ochoa just come on the crossing route right here against man-to-man coverage. Brad Banks throws the football a little bit low, or you can see right here, Mark, there would have been a lot of yards running after the catch because they had Minnesota in man coverage.
Gives him a first down, Bob, at the 45-yard line. So many diverse weapons for this Hawkeye offense. Talked about bringing their offensive line coach from Harvard, Jamel Lewis, on the run. A lot of smarts when you talk about Harvard, right, Reese Davis? Back to you.
High board scores, Mark. Harvard and Penn. But you know what? Even in the Ivy, no matter how smart you are, got to take care of that football. Neil Rose puts it on the ground. The Crimson quarterback giving it up, and Chris Pennington scoop and score. And the Quakers trying to end that 12-game Ivy winning streak of the Crimson. It's 10-2 in the first. Purdue turned over again naturally, and Michigan State's up 17-7.
Boy, Michigan State hanging up a lot of points last week and on that same curve this week. After the coaching change, second down and 7. Lewis hitting the edge and hitting it hard. Jamel Lewis Another first down for the Hawkeyes at the 33-yard line.
The zone play, Mark. You see them come off, get movement. A gaping hole right there for Jermel Lewis. That's pretty easy right there if you're the tailback.
Lewis and Russell having their way on the ground. And coming into the game, remember, it was Minnesota that was #1 in the conference in rushing yardage, but a reversal of sorts. Iowa with 187 yards on the ground. First down and 10. Brad Banks at quarterback. He has come such a long way from junior college, and after transferring, he gave it to Lewis. Gain of about 2. Let's go down to Holly for more.
Guys, Brad Banks was recruited almost by accident. Defensive line coach for Iowa, Ron Aiken, was recruiting defensive linemen when the coach there from Hines Community College showed him a tape of Brad Banks. He'd been a receiver, punt returner, kick returner, and quarterback. So he flew down and met with Brad's mom and dad. And Charles, the dad, for 1 hour kept saying he will only come if he can be a quarterback, over and over and over. Last week for senior day, when Coach Ron Aiken saw the dad, Charles, again, he said, "I told you so. He needed to be a quarterback." Things have worked out just fine.
Yeah, Dad was right, Holly. After all, second down and 8. Banks looks like a good quarterback. Touchdown, Hawkeyes to Mo Brown.
Mark, once again, yesterday's studying tape, we said Minnesota is vulnerable to the post. You see the safety drop down playing in the 8th-man front. They give up the post route. That's the easiest throw in football, is throwing the football in the middle of the field.
And on cue, Bob Davey, Brad Banks wanted to play quarterback. There were some schools in the SEC recruiting him that wanted to use him as a DB and as a receiver. But the emphatic answer from Banks was no, and the answer from Mo Brown was Mo touchdown catches, his 10th of the season as Iowa powers ahead 28-7. Thinking about roses. We'll be right back. It 28-7, Mo Brown ties a school record with his 10th touchdown catch of the season, tying Quinn Early. Record set back in 1987.
This turf is awfully worn here in Minnesota. There's going to be some burn marks after this one if Minnesota doesn't slow them down a little bit.
Yeah, they're wearing the track out right now. Iowa with a 28-7 lead. Perfect in Big Ten Conference play coming in at 7-0. And they'll be doing some scoreboard watching today, no doubt, as Ohio State takes on Illinois in Champaign. Kading's kick will go into the end zone. Let's take one more look at the touchdown catch.
Once again, Mark, if you're going to let your safety play in here and jump up playing quarters coverage, you better put your corner inside technique. They leave the corner outside, and once again, the post in the middle of the field is wide open. You cannot leave that corner hung out there like that with no safety help. The post route is too easy to throw and catch.
Brad Banks making the pass, his 24th touchdown pass of the season. Out of Belgrade, Florida. I'd be smiling too right now with those kind of gaudy statistics. First down and 10. Assad Abdul-Khalik trying to bring his team back, fires incomplete. Let's go to Reese for a Big Ten update.
All right, Martin, Wisconsin, you know about the bugaboo they've had with Michigan. They got down 14-0, get it back to 14-7, and here comes Anthony Davis, healthy now after that stab wound to the leg, and Davis ripping off big yardage. He'd punch it in. Wisconsin's tied it up with the Wolverines at 14.
Yeah, Wisconsin, one of those teams that likes to line up and do some strong power running, just like Glenn Mason's Minnesota crew. Second down and 10. Thomas Tepe with a nice move, brought down at the 27-yard line. Folks, tonight on ESPN, 2 games with postseason implications in the SEC. At 6, South Carolina and 14th-ranked Florida meet in the Swamp. Then at 9, it's on to Death Valley as Alabama faces number 12-ranked LSU. And there's one more look at the play from last week.
I still
Simply
think
incredible.
Back, the one I think back, Mark, obviously the Stanford band play, but Cordell Stewart
Against Michigan.
Up at Michigan in the big house with Washington. I'll never forget the end of that football game. But this one may beat them all.
3rd down and 3. Assad Abdul-Khalik brought down at the 23-yard line by Fred Carr, the team's leading tackler, the guy that really runs the show on D for the Hawkeyes. Here's a look at the SEC West standings. Boy, Alabama under Dennis Franchione really bouncing back this year, and LSU, one of the great stories in college football this year as well.
In Alabama, every week it's a bowl game. And tonight, their bowl game is in Baton Rouge at LSU.
4th down and 6, and leaning into punt, his 4th of the afternoon. Iowa's been bringing some heat. It's off a high spiral. Hinkle back at the 38. He's brought down after a 3-yard return on a 39-yard punt, and what a dream season it's been. You know what? If you got in on the IPO for Iowa, then you really would be rich in football prognostication right now. Look at how they have had a real meteoric rise into the rankings.
I'll tell you what, Mark, buying stock in this team, you feel pretty good right now. You've got that vacation house at the beach you've always wanted if you'd have invested some stock early.
Bring that lotion.
You could have bought some stock relatively cheap early in the season. That was a bargain because nobody was talking about it.
Weren't even on the radar when the season first started. A lot of people picked them to finish 7th or 8th in the conference. And here they are, 1st down and 10 with the lead. Fred Russell cutting it back, finding every small seam imaginable. Fred Russell down to the 39 and a 1st down for the Hawkeyes. Let's go back to Reese, see what's happening with Purdue and Michigan State.
We might have detected, Mark, I've been upset with the Boilermakers because they won't take care of the football. And they've already turned it over 3 times, 2 other fumbles they recovered themselves. But this is what they can do. Brandon Pierce to John Standiford. He leads the Big Ten in catches per game. Boilermakers within 3 of the Spartans in the 2nd.
Standiford's fast. Remember they told us he's a 4.5 guy. They love him. The NFL scouts really like John Standiford.
Deceiving speed, long loping stride. Fred Russell out of the ball game. Brad Banks going up top again, has a man. Clark incomplete. But Dallas Clark got in behind the defense. Bradley Vance, the linebacker, running with him downfield, Bob Davey, along with Ward.
You see Minnesota now, Mark, go to an 8-man front, and they will lock Bradley Vance, the outside linebacker, on Dallas Clark. Brad Banks recognizes it immediately. So the 8th man comes down. It's man-to-man. Tough matchup right there. Great closing speed by Bradley Vance. Started last year as a freshman. Gained 10 pounds in the offseason. He's a good athlete, Mark.
Yeah, that's one of the key matchups today. So keep an eye on Bradley Vance and Dallas Clark in such situations. 2nd and 10. Jamel Lewis off the left side, and a nice tackle that time. The number 95, Anthony Montgomery, for the Gopher defense with 5:20 to go now in the 1st half. One of the stories of the game, Iowa moving the ball well on the ground, 214 yards, and Fred Russell has 148 of those yards.
Mark, 214 yards rushing you see right there. An undersized Minnesota defense that wanted to stay even or get ahead so that Iowa couldn't be this patient and continue to ram the football at them. But here they get him in a 3rd and 9 passing situation.
Banks out of the shotgun. Incomplete to Clark. One of the few times you'll see him drop a pass like that, and Brad Banks took a hit after he passed it.
You're going to see right here, Dallas Clark, one of the best tight ends in the country, wide open, drops a football. Maybe the first one we've seen this season, Mark, that Dallas Clark has dropped. And I go back to that Purdue game. Dallas Clark, 95-yard touchdown reception, and 4th and 7 on the 7. Basically no time left in the game. The touchdown pass to win the football game for Iowa, or they wouldn't be here right now undefeated in the Big Ten.
Has really put them in great positions on the season. They couldn't down it. On the 38-yard punt, it'll come back out to the 20. Assad Abdul-Khalik has been fighting an uphill battle most of the season. Undaunted, though, he continues when we come back. They were expecting a little over 60,000 people here at the Metrodome. A big clash between two huge rivals. They're playing for Floyd of Rosedale's trophy. Thomas Tepe in it back on first down and 10 from Minnesota. Here's Tepe out to the 25. Got about 5. Tepe's been able to stay healthy this year. Let's go downstairs to Holly Rowe.
Hey guys, you often hear coaches talk about a championship attitude. Well, here's one for you. Up 28-7. Look at the hustle that Bob Sanders had on this last punt. He's racing down to the end zone, trying to down it at the 1-yard line. Don't tell him they're up 28-7. This is the kind of workmanlike attitude Iowa's had all season long that has made them the team they are.
Yeah, Holly, what would happen if Kirk Ferentz didn't listen to his old high school coach and take his advice on offering him a scholarship? Pass complete to number 83, Jared Ellerson. And boy, Reese Davis, been a tough year for the Cornhuskers. What's up with them?
Well, they are having trouble containing El Roberson, as many have in the past. Look, watch El Roberson, what he does. That is just not nice, what he did to Philip Bland, who is now going to have his ankles retaped and probably new undergarments. 91 yards, the longest run for K-State since 1948, and they are up 14-0. New undergarments.
Quarterbacks that can run, and 5'8", 5'7" tailbacks, Mark, seem to be in vogue.
It's a premium on those types right now. Tepe across the 40 to the 42. Here's a look at the Big 12 North Division standings.
Kansas State really hot right now. El Roberson really coming into his own as a quarterback. Iowa State kind of dropped off from the early season positives they had. Nebraska struggling. But Kansas State right now, Mark, is the hot football team in that North Division. I think the South Division of the Big 12, toughest division in college football.
I agree with you on that. Pass complete to Ellerson once again, who has the first down across midfield and into Iowa territory.
Minnesota, a big 3-step drop team. We mentioned earlier, running after the catch is key. Ellerson right here in the quick stop route. He makes Antoine Allen miss and gets some extra yardage. That is critical because Minnesota does not throw the ball down the field, Mark. They have to get yards after the catch.
Outside of maybe Antoine Burns, not a lot of speed from the receivers. First down and 10. Jackson back in the ballgame between the tackles, down to the 47-yard line. And more great college football action this afternoon on ABC. The key one on your screen there, number 2 Ohio State taking on Illinois in Champaign. Now, Bob, I'm going to say that there's a chance there that Illinois can get something going. When you look at the struggles that Ohio State had last week against Purdue.
I don't like you tippy-toeing into that by saying there's a chance. Well, no kidding, there's a chance.
Okay, well, that's my Nick Mackay upset special.
After picking A&M to beat Oklahoma, I thought you'd be a lot more confident in making strong statements.
Here's Abdul Khalik into the end zone, and it's incomplete. Pagel back there on the coverage, and he got rocked after he threw it, and he is down on the turf at the 43-yard line. It has been a very trying and tumultuous season for Asad Abdul Khalik. Matt Roth with the late hit.
Matt Roth getting his chance to start today in place of Jonathan Babineau. You're going to see him right here coming in at the top of the screen. The biggest thing, I think, was him putting that helmet right there under Abdul Khalik's chin. It was a little bit late, but because of where he placed that face mask, Mark, I think is why he got the 15-yard penalty. Good job right there, taking him out of the football game, explaining the situation to him. They really like Matt Roth. Highly recruited linebacker out of the Chicago area, has grown into a defensive end. Norm Parker really high on him because he's an aggressive football player.
Yeah, certainly does not lack for intensity. First and 10 for the Gophers. Pass complete to Tony Patterson. And the 28 hit immediately by Bob Sanders. I was talking about Sanders a few moments ago. And you could also think about the great stories this year on the Iowa team. He's one of them. What if Ferentz hadn't listened to his high school coach and offered Bob Sanders a ride? Sanders was overlooked by most of the major programs out there.
That's the great thing about college football, Mark. So many what what ifs. What if Brad Banks would have stayed at receiver? What if Mo Brown wouldn't have come back from some off-the-field problems last year?
Bubble screen complete to Antoine Burns. And Reese Davis, tell us what's coming up on the Nivea for Men halftime report.
Well, Mark, we'll check in on the big house battle between Wisconsin and Michigan. The Badgers got in a hole early, but they are fighting back. There is a battle going underway in Franklin Field for the Ivy League title between Harvard and Penn. The winner has shared at least a share of that crown. And we'll also check in on Ohio State. Iowa's finishing very well. We'll see how the Buckeyes do. Trev Alberts will have an opinion, as you might know. It's all coming up on the Nivea for Men halftime report.
All right, Reese, Iowa looking to go 8-0 in Big Ten Conference play. Perfect so far. Minnesota on the move, though. Thomas Tepay is brought down to the 14 by Kevin Worthy and Colin Cole.
Colin Cole is a good story. 13 tackles for losses on the season, 6 sacks, a big, strong, physical football player. And Mark, I believe he grew up in Florida. And you're telling the stories about being homesick. I know there's some reality because you're homesick a lot of times. When that wind starts blowing up here, you're ready to go home to Miami every time that wind blows.
It's 25 degrees outside. Malik complete to Patterson. Just short of the end zone, inside the 1-yard line, as Minnesota tries to punch one in before the half.
You have to love the resiliency of Abdul Khalik, throwing the post route to Patterson right here. Give Abdul Khalik credit, Mark. Coming back, a 28-7 game. He's been injured this year. He gets knocked in the mouth by Matt Roth, stays in there, competes, throws the football. Minnesota has a chance to score right now.
First down and goal to go with 40 seconds to go in the half. They run the option. Touchdown, Minnesota. Abdul Khalik. He did it himself.
Go back to the penalty. Matt Roth, 15 yards. Hitting Abdul Khalik. Interesting, Mark. Iowa, the most penalized team in the Big Ten, but also, in my opinion, the best team in the Big Ten.
Kind of going against conventional wisdom, or what you might think.
You can't always associate penalties with success.
Nystrom with the extra point. And it's good. Hey, the Minnesota Golden Gophers showing you that they can get up after taking a punch to the gut. Assad Abdul Khalik keeps fighting back, as does his team, and we'll be right back.
Meet the pride of the 21st century. Nathan Stevens, complimentary care nursing specialist. Amanda Germain DeWitt, concert pianist and composer. Angelica Stein, communication specialist. Jennifer Eibwicks, high school superintendent. Hans and Wilhelm Schmidt, molecular conceptual biologist and chief executive officer. The future, brought to you by the University of Minnesota.
You got me spinning, my bell is ringing, it's making my head cuckoo. You got to believe me, if you ever leave me, I don't know what I'd ever do without you.
We are back at the Metrodome in Minneapolis, where the Golden Gophers have just run one in, courtesy of Assad Abdul Khalik, to cut the Iowa lead to just 14. Split one down inside the 15. It's Jones. C.J. Jones brought down at the 23-yard line. Let's go downstairs to Holly.
Guys, you mentioned earlier that Assad Abdul Khalik has had a lot of criticism this year. And last week, he had 3 interceptions against Michigan. This Thursday at practice, Glenn Mason had all of his team around him and said, if anyone here doesn't think that Assad put his behind on the line and played his guts out against Michigan for us, if they don't think that he is playing that hard every single game, stand up right now. Be a man. Nobody stood up. Glenn Mason says he believes in this kid, and he did that so the rest of his teammates will learn to believe in him as well.
All right, Holly, and of course he is a deeply devout Muslim, Assad Abdul Khalik, currently acknowledging the season on the calendar, which is known as Ramadan, a season of fasting. Jamel Lewis on the carry for the Hawkeyes, brought down right at the line of scrimmage. But plenty of football to go. Iowa trying
huge score. Mark, excuse me. Just a huge score for Minnesota right there at the end of the half. They go in 28-14, and they get the football to start the second half. So there's still life in the Gophers.
Iowa has led at halftime in 11 of its last 12 games. And the guy from Belgrade, Florida, Brad Banks, leading the way as we lead the way back to the studio. Reese Davis in the Nivea for Men halftime report.
Mark, thank you very much. That Iowa juggernaut on offense, putting 4 touchdowns on.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Metrodome in Minneapolis. The score 28-14 at halftime. They are competing for the Floyd of Rosedale Trophy, but more importantly, Iowa trying to remain perfect in conference play for the first time in 80 years. Mark Jones along with Bob Davey, Holly Rowe down in the field. Bob, you alluded to the fact that sometimes that last step is the toughest one to take for Iowa, but doesn't seem like they're suffering from stage fright at all.
Mark, I compared it to my golf game. If I can break 90, it's a huge accomplishment. But sometimes going into that 18th hole when you're sitting there at 85, that last hole is the toughest to try to keep that under 5. But I've been really impressed with Iowa right here, coming out and playing the balance of their team. I don't think Brad Banks was particularly sharp in the first half throwing the football, but as always, he runs the ball, he makes plays. Fred Russell steps up and rushes the football. The overall balance of their team. The defense creates a turnover, and Floyd of Rosedale is in the house, Mark.
Since 1935, it all began with a friendly wager on a couple of hogs between 2 governors of the respective states of Minnesota and Iowa, and they have played the game every year since that time. Minnesota receiving to begin the second half of play. They'll start on their own 20-yard line. Look at the Gateway game track so far. Russell and Banks running the ball so well. 257 total yards and 3 touchdowns between them. Brad Banks with a great effort, and Assad Abdul-Khalik. Bob, this was an important touchdown, wasn't it?
Give credit to Assad Abdul-Khalik. Tough first half at times, but Mark, I think he played extremely well. He was 12 for 19 throwing the football, shows a bunch of competitiveness. I'm proud of the way he played in the first half. He gives Minnesota an opportunity to win this game.
Thomas Tepe in at tailback to start the second half. 2 tights and 2 wideouts, and it's Tepe over the left side out near a first down at the 29-yard line. Holly Rowe, what's up?
Coach Glenn Mason said that the score right before halftime was critical for his team from an attitude standpoint. He thought the team was resilient in the locker room, and he told them eliminate big plays and turnovers on offense, and they will be right back in this game. For Iowa, Kirk Ferentz reiterated the need to play smart. He said it was their goal going into this game. The pass interference play and the roughing the quarterback were not smart calls. Look for them to tighten things up from a discipline standpoint.
All right, Holly, second down and 1. Tepe stopped up but fell forward to get the first down. Klaus made the initial hit for the Hawkeyes, but couldn't wrap him up. Tepe, who has been a good story this year, Bob, able to stay healthy, put some of the foot problems he's had in the past behind him.
Looks a little bit more like a fullback, Mark, but one thing jumps out at me as this game progresses. Minnesota's going to have to throw the football, that's obvious. We talked about run after the catch. Run after catch in the first half. Minnesota with 12 pass completions, 54 yards running after the catch. That's about 5 yards a catch. They need to break a couple big plays in the passing game to win this game.
They run it again, and a loose ball. It's on the carpet, and Iowa has it. Derek Pagel recovered the loose ball. And they get a gift working with a short field. A big hit by Howard Hodges. And now the official is going to discuss this and decide on Iowa. Hawkeye ball.
Thomas Tepe comes back. You're going to see Howard Hodges here playing off the block of the tight end. Comes in and right here makes contact. Strips the football out of there. Derek Pagel recovers. We're going to see right here, Mark, if his knee was down. It looks to me his knee was down, and that football came out after he was down on the carpet.
That's exactly what the Minnesota team was arguing, but it's the second turnover now for Minnesota in the ballgame. The first one led to a touchdown by the Hawkeyes. Banks hands it off to Russell. The zone play. And Fred Russell is in the zone. A first down at the 23-yard line. A pickup of 14 yards for Fred Russell.
Iowa talks about keeping it simple so your players can play smart. Here's a great picture of the double team, and the guard's going to come off on the linebacker, the double team, and the tight end comes off. They create two double teams at the line of scrimmage, and wow, that is a gaping hole. But creating double teams at the line of scrimmage on the undersized defensive line of Minnesota in the zone blocking concept.
At the 24, Russell again. Man, Fred Russell stopped on a dime. Didn't leave Minnesota any change down to the 16-yard line. This is the third time that the Hawkeyes have started to drive in Minnesota territory.
You're going to see Fred Russell here again on the zone play. Keep running it enough, and you're going to find a little crack that Fred Russell can squirt through.
The meter's still running for number 2, Fred Russell, out of Romulus, Michigan, and Milford Academy, the prep school in Connecticut.
I'm still amazed, Mark, at the depth of Fred Russell in the backfield in that one back set.
And here he is again on 2nd and 3. Russell kind of tripped over the 14-yard line.
The turf monster reared his ugly head in the Metrodome, Mark.
That's Fraley down on the play for Minnesota. But as we mentioned, this is the first game of the year that Iowa has played on the rug. And back to Russell's story, if you haven't heard it already, it really is a compelling one. Kirk Ferentz was at Milford Academy in Connecticut recruiting Nico Kutovides, who now subsequently went to Purdue. But on a whim, one of the coaches told Fred Russell, hey, you know, you should go talk to Coach Ferentz about potentially a future at Iowa. The two of them met, hit it off, and when Fred Russell had finished the semester at Milford Academy, he enrolled at Iowa. He wanted to go to school in January, and some of the other schools that had recruited him backed off of him a little bit, told him to wait until later in the year.
Well, Mark, he has just surpassed his career rushing day. He now has 172 yards in this football game. And Fred Russell made a great decision because he went with these big offensive linemen of Iowa. That was a good decision in recruiting.
First down and 10. Here's the waggle. Dallas Clark brought down at the 11 by Bradley Vansworth, the Metrodome in Minneapolis. Number 5, Iowa, taking on the Golden Gophers. I'm Mark Jones along with Bob Davie. All the road down patrolling the sidelines. And this is a game that could see Iowa go 8-0 in conference play with a win, which would make them picture perfect in conference play for the first time in 80 years, and potentially a berth in the Rose Bowl. A lot of BCS possibilities coming out of this game for Iowa, should they hang on and win. 2nd down and 7. Banks on the option. Ran east-west a lot, and boy, Bob, you pointed out earlier, that ball is out there.
You're going to see Brad Banks again on the zone option. Cuts it up inside, and Brad put it away. Put it away. You really wonder, Mark, we've watched him all year. I don't think I've seen him fumble the football. So let's quit talking about it.
That's a good point.
Actually, go ahead, Mark.
If you look at their season on the whole, it was 2 Brad Banks fumbles in the 3rd quarter against Iowa State, which swung the momentum in favor of the Cyclones. If not for those fumbles, they're perfect on the year.
Great point. And if I remember right, he had a bad hand in that game.
Right. Mitigating circumstance for Banks. 3rd down and 3. Touchdown, Solomon. If you haven't seen Brad Banks, if you haven't paid attention to the Heisman hype on Brad Banks by now, well, you better ask somebody and look in on Brad Banks. He is one of the top quarterbacks maybe players in the country.
Can you imagine a senior starting his first year? That kind of ability, and it's his first year as the starter at Iowa.
People wondered about the leadership at the position when the season began. Those questions, those doubters are gone. We'll be right back.
A reoccurring problem for Minnesota. Corners allowing receivers inside. Here you're going to see Minnesota man-to-man coverage. Iowa clears it out. There's no one in the throwing lane, but the corner allows the wide receiver, Clinton Solomon, inside. That's too easy, Mark. If you're going to play man-to-man with no post help, your corner has to take away the short, easy inside throw.
Well, they learned the lesson the hard way that time. Fading stick down to the 1. It's Upchurch. Upchurch tackled at the 25-yard line. Let's go back to Reese.
All right, Mark, I told you at halftime that Kansas State blocked a punt against Nebraska to make it 21-3. Here's videotape evidence now. Marcus Patton with the block. Jared Johnson scoops it up, and that is indeed the touchdown that gave the Wildcats the 18-point lead over the Cornhuskers. They're just about to go to the half. Nebraska attempting a long field goal. Penn is laying it on Harvard, 34-2 late in the first half.
Crimson look a little black and blue right now. First down and 10 for the Golden Gophers. Time to mount a little offense. This is Jackson. And he is stopped at the 30-yard line after a gain of about 2 yards. Terry Jackson averaging 6 per rush coming in by Cole.
Minnesota, a big zone team like Iowa, but a major difference. Minnesota pulls their center a lot. And here you're going to see Greg Eschlinger, the freshman center, pull. A little bit different scheme. Iowa likes to create double teams on the line of scrimmage. Minnesota likes to pull linemen. And you see the freshmen out there who they really like here at Minnesota.
Second down and 8. Abdul Khalik completes the pass to Aaron Hosack, and there's a flag down in the play. Minnesota well below their rushing average so far at halftime, or just into the third period now. Hosack, one of those tall, rangy receivers, a junior at 6'6". It's against the defense.
Hosack, a junior college transfer, Mark, as you mentioned, 6'6", just a little post route. You say Javon Johnson, the freshman, come in there, get there a little bit early.
Out of Walnut, California, was suffering from a bit of a hamstring injury for the last couple of weeks.
Minnesota chooses, Mark, to take the penalty. Creates a 1st and 10 here.
This is a rivalry that has been played every year since 1935. And the object of their affections, among other things today, a bronze pig named Floyd. The trophy for him. First down and 10. Into the boundary, it's Upchurch. Gain of about 9, and let's go downstairs to Holly Rowe.
Well, guys, I am here with Floyd the Pig. This used to be a real pig. As you said, the Governors had a wager on this game back in 1935. The real pig was a prize hog, but he died, unfortunately, of pig cholera. They actually take this trophy out to the state fairs. When either team has it, it goes to the state fair. People can get their picture taken with Floyd. It is a great deal of pride. A lot of the Iowa kids did grow up on farms, and so they're into it. But Coach Glenn Mason said they are into it as well. It's been a huge rivalry for years, and the fight for the pig is on. Now, for Iowa, they've had a saying all year, the hay is never in the barn, meaning their work is never done. But today I say the pig is out of the locker room and ready for the taking. Oh. How's that one, guys?
So poetic, Holly Rowe. And just thinking about Floyd during my bacon and eggs this morning breakfast, Bob. I took a shot.
That's the first time this year you've left me speechless.
Second down and 1. Floyd's been in Iowa City for the last year after being in Minneapolis for the 3 previous seasons. Jackson brought down at midfield, a flag down in the play, and it's a hold against the offense. Terry Jackson, one of the interesting stories this season for Minnesota. Tell us, Redmond left early for the NFL. Marion Barber III got hurt. He was projected as the starter. And then comes in the number 3 guy, Terry Jackson. He was actually number 4 behind Thomas Tepe, who moved over into more of a fullback role. And Jackson now goes on to run for almost 1,200 yards on the season.
And how about this? 238 yards rushing against Michigan State. Comes back 239 yards rushing against Northwestern. Back-to-back games.
But all of just 4 today on 2 rushes. Second down and 11. They run the bubble screen, and it's incomplete. Intended for Tony Patterson.
Once again, Mark, you go back to the holding penalty. Self-inflicted mistake by Minnesota. What's up with that hot guy?
It's a rough house. The bird is flying the coop. I think it's a little early. It's a rough room. Third and 11. Minnesota hoping to get some offense going here. Abdul Khalik, they go up top. Hosak with the catch. And a first down at the 17-yard line.
We've talked all year. The most difficult thing to defend in football if your corner is the underthrown fade. Here you see Antoine Allen. He's in great phase right here, but the ball is actually underthrown, Mark, and Hosak has a chance to come back and make the completion. That is very difficult when the quarterback underthrows the football. In the NFL, a lot of teams coach that and successfully underthrow the football.
Pass complete. Down to the 10-yard line, Antoine Burns, and let's go back to Reese.
Tennessee and Mississippi State, Mark. Volunteers without Casey Clausen, still up 14-0. Kevin Fant will find Donald Lee for the touchdown. Dogs within 14-7. Now, this news just into us. Kelly Washington's going to have spinal fusion surgery next week. A Dallas orthopedist says he can absorb contact in about 3 months.
Second down and 3. And just outside the 10. Tepe into the boundary. And hit at the 8-yard line by the number 2 rush defense in the country from Iowa. Cole, Klaus, Hodges, and Babineau up front along with Roth. Actually, Babineau not here today.
The great advantage, Mark, that Iowa's defense has had all year, they get ahead so quickly in football games because their offense is such an explosive, early in the game striking offense. They're always ahead, and that's why their rushing defense has been so successful.
Third down and 1. Tepe. Looks like he got the first down at about the 6-yard line. Thomas Tepe, average 5.3 per carry coming into the ball game. Last year and the season before, constantly battling foot injuries, but this year, knock on wood for Thomas Tepe, able to stay healthy and making a big difference in his productivity as a result. It's first down and goal from just outside the 6-yard line for Minnesota, who trail 35-14. Lots of action today in the Big Ten. Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio State, at Illinois a little later. Here's Tepe tiptoeing down to the 3-yard line. Let's go back to Reese for more Big Ten updates.
John Navarro's got the Michigan offense going against Wisconsin deep in the third quarter. Tie game at 14, third down play. Navarro looking for his favorite target. Braylon Edwards makes a nice stretch to get it into the end zone. Wolverines now up by 7, and Virginia continuing to handle NC State, still up 14-3.
All right, Reese, second down and goal.
Mark, we noticed something in practice. Thomas Tepe on a halfback pass. You're not going to see it here, the naked boot.
Abdul Khalik sold the fake. A flag down. He was working on the corner that time, number 25, Derek Pagel. And there's a flag down just outside the end zone. It's going to be either a push-off on the receiver or on Pagel, the safety. It's against Pagel.
Minnesota comes with the naked boot. Scooter Bogus in the corner. I think Derek Pagel did get there a little bit early, Mark. A little bit of contact here before the football arrives. No question, that's a good call.
And as a consequence of that, it is first down and goal. Just outside the 2-yard line.
Going back to Scooter Bogus, the big tight end, number 88, who you see coming back on the field right here. He's been hampered all year, Mark, with knee injuries. You see the 2 knee braces he's wearing right there. A tight end from Texas. High expectations coming into the season. He's a senior. Give him a lot of credit for fighting through some injuries.
9th play of the drive. Bogus in motion. To Pay. Brought down short of the end zone at the 1-yard line. It'll be third down and goal to go for the Gophers, who trail 35-14.
Go back to the point, Mark. Minnesota comes into the game #1 in the Big Ten in rushing offense. But who did they rush the football against? Time to make a statement if you're Minnesota. Step up and run this football in the end zone right now.
They are 2 of 7 on third down. This is second and goal. Just 58 yards running the ball. Backs out of the offset eye. They run the option. Touchdown, Gophers.
Kirk Ferentz obviously wanting holding on that play. But Kirk would also be the first one to tell you, Mark, if they wanted to call holding on zone blocking teams, they almost could call it every play.
You can't say enough about Minnesota's courage. Refusing to give up or surrender. Trying to cut the lead to just 14 points now. That's their second rushing touchdown. Actually, Kalik's second rushing touchdown of the afternoon. Nystrom in for the extra point. It's good. The lead is down to 14 points. We're going to take a timeout as we look at the touchdown by Asad Abdul-Khalik. When we come back, we'll speak with Big Ten Commissioner Jim Delaney, a man smiling wide right now.
ESPN's presentation of college football brought to you by Gateway, a better way.
And a look at Pillsbury House here on the campus of the University of Minnesota, donated by the former governor, John S. Pillsbury, in 1889.
Mark, I thought you brought up an excellent point. The resiliency of Asad Abdul-Khalik keeping Minnesota in this football game. And Iowa's defense forcing some turnovers. Iowa taking advantage of it. But Minnesota's offense, Asad Abdul-Khalik staying in the game, keeping it competitive.
And keep in mind that Iowa has been prone to surrendering some leads in the past. This one comes down to Jones at the 7. He's brought down at the 22. Let's go back to Reese.
Mark, I want you to pay close attention to this catch. Purdue and Michigan State, 24-17 Boilermakers. Damon Dowdell to Charlie Rogers. That is sweet, my friends. Extra point was blocked. Purdue hangs on to that 24-23 lead. Syracuse and BC tied up at 20. BC is on the move, second and goal.
All right, Reese, yeah, that's the type of productivity they expected out of Michigan State's offense at the beginning of the season. The Gophers, meanwhile, trying to muscle up. Get strong up front against Fred Russell and this Iowa team, which has run the ball very well today. Banks on the bootleg. He's brought down at the 22-yard line. I want to bring in Big Ten Commissioner Jim Delaney. Jim, thanks a lot for joining us. You know, at the start of the season, a lot of people talked about the prognosticators anyway saying that the Big Ten was down a little bit, but you have to feel great about the way the Big Ten is situated right now and positioned going into the bowl season.
Well, I think there are a lot of great football teams around the country. Some of them are in the Big Ten, and we've had a great conference race. We had a good September, and we're looking forward to seeing what transpires over the next couple of weeks.
Second down and 10. Russell on the move. Russell with a first down. Out to the 40-yard line, and let's take a look at the BCS standings. Ohio State with a game later at Illinois, Iowa at number 8, and Michigan at number 10.
Jim, I think it's remarkable that obviously 3 Big Ten teams in the top 10 of the BCS bodes well for this conference, and we have enjoyed our run all season with Iowa.
We appreciate what ESPN and what you all have brought to our fans in the Midwest and throughout the country, and it's been fun to be part of.
What do you think of Fred Russell?
He's very good. You know, he's quick. You know, he makes plays. I've been impressed by Iowa's consistency game to game. I don't think they've had a letdown, maybe a little weakness in the couple fourth quarters, but other than that, they have been really, really focused and sharp.
And Jim, speaking of Iowa, if Ohio State, if form holds true, they finish up undefeated, head to the Fiesta Bowl, what are your thoughts on the scenarios and where the dominoes have to fall in order for Iowa to get one of those at-large BCS bids?
Well, you know, it's a cliche, but it depends, really. If Texas or someone in another BCS conference ended up in the top 4 as a second runner-up, they would actually secure an automatic at-large. If Notre Dame is in the top 6 in the country, they could get an automatic at-large. But I think that if Iowa wins today, I think they're going to have some great opportunities, whether it's in a BCS bowl or in another New Year's Day bowl.
Jim, I know you can't say this. I'll say it for you. If Iowa wins today and they don't go to a BCS bowl, then something's wrong. Because this football team right now could play any football team in this country and have a tremendous opportunity to win. So if Iowa ends up at 11-1 and doesn't go to a BCS bowl game, I'll be the first one to say there's been an injustice done.
Well, I appreciate the advocacy, Bob. As a football coach, who would know better? You're the expert.
Jim, thanks a lot for joining us, and once again, congratulations on the fine showing by all the teams in the Big Ten this year.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks for doing a great job.
Jim, thank you.
Appreciate it.
First down and 10. Yeah, we have chronicled and documented the productivity and the stories of the Iowa Hawkeyes this year. It's been a great run for Iowa and a good run here. Jermel Lewis still on his feet. Lewis tight-roping down the sidelines, and he steps out of bounds at the 30-yard line. Yeah, go ahead, Jermel. Do your little dance. You deserve it.
Anytime you have competition at a position, as you have at Iowa with these tailbacks, you have to take advantage of each carry. And here you see Jermel Lewis, physical, strong, particularly in the lower body, just running through people. Mark, you remember this when you played basketball. If there was another point guard that was pretty good and you had to share time, when you got in there, you better bring your A game, right?
Got to do your thing. Can't sleep. First down and 10. 3 receivers on the formation. This is Dallas Clark in motion. Banks hands it off to Lewis. Jermel Lewis down to the 25-yard line. Got about 4 on the play with 3:32 to go now in the third quarter.
Football is a test of wills. And the great thing about Iowa's offensive scheme with these big, strong offensive linemen, they start to wear you down and take away your will to win. And you see that right now a little bit in this football game. Minnesota's been hanging by a thread, hanging tough, but this big physical offensive line with 3 potential first-round draft choices is starting to control this football game. Not starting to control this football game. They are controlling this football game.
15 rushing first downs. Jermel Lewis. Lewis down to the 17-yard line. And don't forget, tomorrow night, cue the music. The Patriots and the Raiders. Quarterback Tom Brady last year with that controversial non-fumble that wasn't called. A tuck rule in effect after that. And Rich Gannon last week was just straight up on fire, completing 21 consecutive passes against Denver in their win. Nice rematch tomorrow night. First and 10 for Brad Banks and the Iowa offense. And the Hawkeye fans that have made the trip chanting now, we're number 1. Lewis, Jermel Lewis, working Minnesota like a part-time job.
Once again, their offensive line. You're going to see Andy Lightfoot right here. Coming off on the 3 technique. Darrell Reed, zone blocking again. Jermel Lewis on the cutback. Let's look at it from on top. You're going to see this hole open. Look at that gash right there, Mark. Great offensive line play.
Handed off to the fullback, first man through Cervantes. With another rare carry, his second of the afternoon. As we approach 2 minutes to go in the period.
How Iowa answers each and every week.
Yeah.
Not only offensively as they're answering today after Minnesota scores, but how they answer as a football team when one unit is not playing particularly well. Whether it's offense, defense, or kicking game, they are as balanced a football team as I've seen in a long time in college football, Mark.
Second and goal. 9th play of the Hawkeye drive. Backside of the eye. That's Brown in motion. And a nice defensive play. Number 27, Eli Ward, the best open field tackler on the defense, making a nice stop. It'll be 3rd down and goal now for Iowa. Minnesota's defense not giving up. Eli Ward, the 6-foot junior. Hurt his knee a season ago and came back well this year.
This is where it's so difficult to defend Iowa in these 3rd and medium, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6 downs, Mark. Number 1 in the Big Ten in 3rd down efficiency. You have a quarterback that can scramble. You have balance amongst your receivers. Very difficult to defend.
A little motion up front.
I believe it was Andy Lightfoot, the offensive guard, moving. Now it's 3rd and 9.
Well, if he's not playing in the NFL, Lightfoot probably be in med school next year.
Start offense. 5-yard penalty. Still 3rd down.
Maybe thinking about those MCAT tests that he wrote to get into med school.
Iowa with 307 yards rushing in this football game. 3rd and 9. They've been a big jailbreak screen team in the red zone, Mark.
Brown is in the slot. Clark in motion. Little shuffle pass to Clark. And Clark fights his way down to the 5, but you know what? That is a nice defensive stand by the Gopher defense to end the 3rd period of play with just 5 seconds to go in the period. Dallas Clark fought, but he was stopped short. The Iowa Hawkeyes are just 15 minutes short of a perfect Big Ten season, their first in 80 years. More when we come back. We are back at the Metrodome in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where number 5 Iowa leads Minnesota by a score of 35-21. Nate Kading now in to attempt a field goal. Little chip shot. And it's spotted at the 16. Actually make that the 11. It's a 21-yarder. Good job by the holder to get that down. 1 for 1 now on the day, Nate Kading. 1 for 2 on the day, check that. And we'll be back right after this. Back under the bright lights of the Minneapolis Metrodome. Number 5 Iowa leading now by 17 points, courtesy of a 21-yard field goal by Kading. His kick will go through the end zone. Minnesota will start off on its own 20-yard line. Let's take a look at our Gateway game track. Rushing yardage, the main story of the game. Fred Russell and Jermel Lewis chewing up carpet to the tune of 307 yards. And Assad Abdul-Khalik with 3 touchdowns, 2 of them rushing, 1 passing. But 2 of his fumbles, actually 1 of his fumbles, has led to a score.
Field position, Mark, such a key statistics in football games. Minnesota has not started a drive today past their own 29-yard line. They've played hard, they've played tough. They've had no field position in this football game.
There's Terry Jackson on 1st and 10. near the 30. And let's go downstairs to Holly Rowe.
Guys, right now, Iowa running back Fred Russell is being carted off the field to the locker room where there is an x-ray machine over in the Minnesota Vikings area. He has got some problems with his upper arm and shoulder. No word on it. It's the same shoulder that he has had injury problems with all season. But right now, Fred Russell out of the game until they further evaluate him with an x-ray.
All right, Holly, and Fred Russell well over 1,000 yards coming into the ball game. Speaks to his durability. It's been a long season for him, and Terry Jackson over the 30, brought down by Fred Barr. Let's go back to Reese.
A loss eliminates either Purdue or Michigan State from bowl eligibility. 24-23, Boilermakers on top. Jared Boyd crashing in there, and yes, he did indeed get in. 31-23, Boilers taking control, or maybe not. Damon Dowdell to Charlie Rogers, and watch Charlie with this burst. He's have a nice little butt block, and he's going to house it. 31-30, we're still in the third quarter.
And a shootout that Joe Tiller thought his team would be able to compete in. And pass complete. Number 17, Tony Patterson. Bob, what is it about Iowa? Why do they say good, so good?
Field position. You look at this statistic right here, 35 sacks, 79 tackles for loss on defense. That comes out to about 50 yards a game in negative defensive plays created by their defense. The second thing, leads the Big Ten in virtually every kicking statistic. A lot of ways you can tweak statistics, but the most important, field position and turnovers.
Abdul Khalik going up top, and it's picked off by Javon Johnson. Hung up there a little bit long, and Johnson came down with it. His 4th interception of the season. As a team, it's Iowa's 19th, and they are starting to really smell some roses. 38-21 here in Minneapolis. I'm Mark Jones along with Bob Davey and Holly Rowe down on the sidelines as Iowa tries to close out a perfect Big Ten season. Looking to improve to 8-0, 11-1 overall.
Tremendous interception by Javon Johnson, the freshman, going up and making a play on that football, mark.
And making a second start. 1st and 10. As Jamel Lewis brought down to the 16-yard line. One more look at that Johnson pick.
Javon Johnson getting a chance to start right here. He's kind of cruising. Goes up and great athleticism right here. Let's see how he comes down with the football.
Wow.
Wow. When it's going good, it's going good. But he did go up and make a play on the ball. Little bit of good fortune involved as well, Mark.
5'9", just 165.
And just a freshman.
Another one of those young-looking guys. Good. Looks like he's still got a Snoopy lunchbox.
He's going to get in that weight room. He's going to get that Bob Sanders body before long, I promise you.
2nd and 10, Banks to pass. To Brown, complete. Bo Brown tiptoes out of bounds at the 27. College Football Saturday continuing tonight on ESPN. 2 games in the SEC. South Carolina at Florida, where Florida has won all 8 games in the Swamp. South Carolina trying to break that losing streak there. And then last week's miracle win by LSU keeps them in the driver's seat in the SEC West. But a tough opponent coming to town, Alabama, sitting atop the standings in the SEC West. Don't miss College Football Saturday, presented by the U.S. Postal Service.
A couple great games tonight. 2 back-to-back SEC Big Ten games.
Back home to the couch and watch those if you can. 1st down and 10. Lewis on the zone play. Out of bounds at the 31. And Reese Davis, what's up with K-State?
Well, Mark, we saw a great run by L. Roberson earlier. After Kansas State put it on the ground, Nebraska recovered, and Jamal Lord, he's down. No, he's not. Knee never touches, and Jamal Lord. One more little move. Oh, Lordy. Jamal goes in, 21-13. The Huskers back in.
So strange still to see Nebraska and no ranking beside their name.
A little strange not seeing Eric Crouch. Haven't had a chance to play against Nebraska the last 2 years. Jamal Lord's done a great job this year, but that's a different football team without Eric Crouch in there.
Cervantes getting his 3rd carry of the game. Brought down by Darrell Reed. As we approach 12 minutes to go in a season that has been more than what some people would have thought for the Iowa Hawkeyes and head coach Kirk Ferentz in his 4th season. Last year, they improved to 7-5. His first year, they were 1-10. Here they are 4 years later. They're 10-1.
Mark, you have to give credit to their administration and their athletic director. The athletic director knew they had a good football coach, a good solid coach in Kirk Ferentz. A lot of people on the outside may not have thought early in his career they had a good football coach in Kirk Ferentz, but the athletic director showed a lot of confidence in his own ability to assess the talents of his head coach and stayed with it.
Well, from Kinnick Stadium all the way down to the pedestrian mall in South Dubuque, it's starting to percolate right now.
ESPN's presentation of college football brought to you by Miller High Life, the champagne of beers, and by Ford, no boundaries.
We are back at the Minneapolis Metrodome, and some of the revelers here in the stands making the trip from Iowa City. A 5-hour drive along I-35 and I-80. 3rd down and 1. Banks keeps it himself. It's going to be close, depends on the spot here. Had to get just beyond the 37 for the 1st down. Brad Banks, quarterback out of Belle Glade, Florida. Grew up chasing rabbits after they burned the sugarcane fields there, and that's where he established a lot of his quickness and cutting ability, Bob.
He's not the only one. There's been a lot of great athletes that have come off that Lake Okeechobee area down there.
Fred Taylor of the Jacksonville Jags, James Jackson of the Cleveland Browns, Johnny Rutledge of the Arizona Cardinals, and Brad Banks got the 1st down by that much. Statistically speaking, Minnesota and Iowa 1-2 respectively in rushing yardage, but has been no contest today.
Iowa 3 times this season, including today, has rushed for over 300 yards in a football game.
Yeah, those Iowa fans were making a little noise at our hotel last night too. They were ready, as was their football team for this game. Minnesota trying to stay tough here on defense, on a challenge. Jermel Lewis stopped up behind the line of scrimmage by number 51, Darrell Reed. Let's go back to Reese.
Down in the SEC, Mark, Tennessee and Mississippi State, 14-7 games, Bulldogs. Kevin Fant just gets drilled by Mondre Dickerson. Rashad Moore picks it up, takes it in for the Volunteers, and Tennessee on top 21-7. Nice answer by Kentucky after that devastating loss to LSU last week. Artus Penner over 100 yards, 3 touchdowns, up by 14 on Vandy.
And Tennessee up 21-7. Boy, how impressive was Miami winning in Knoxville last week?
Miami is one of those teams that's so talented, Mark. When they turn it on, they can turn it on.
2nd down and 18. Cervantes with his 4th carry, brought down to the 35-yard line. And let's go downstairs to Holly Rowe.
Guys, the injury is starting to mount right now for the Minnesota defense. The starting defensive tackle, Dan Kopinski, is out right now. He has a knee injury. They will see if they can get him back in the game. A player who is also out for the rest of the game is Terrence Campbell, their starting middle linebacker. His replacement, Justin Fraley, is also injured. They're trying to get him in some situations, but right now Phil Archer, an outside linebacker, has slid over into that position, number 31, trying to fill in on the middle.
Minnesota only 1 senior starter on that defensive team. The corner, Lehan, that's a young defensive team, but I think it's going to be pretty good down the road, Mark.
Glenn Mason's got some players in the forward. 3rd and 13, Banks. Incomplete, almost picked off into traffic. Lehan, and on the coverage. You know, Bob, we talked about Miami and Tennessee's game last week. As you look at Iowa, it's up an interesting prospect. Those 2 teams play I think it would be an extremely competitive game. A lot of people around the nation don't know about how good Kirk Ferentz's team is, but I think it would be very even.
You have to watch Iowa's team play to appreciate all the little things they do well and the balance they have as a football team, Mark. And they could play any team in the country and win.
Minnesota coming up the middle, and a great punt by Bradley. Back to the 13. And it's a fumble by Burns. The Hawkeyes say they have it, and they do.
There's another element of their football team, the best special teams football team in the country, and Bob Sanders, with a tremendous effort after missing the tackle, comes back and strips the ball. You're going to see Bob Sanders, the gunner, coming down on Antoine Barnes, misses a tackle, gets up off the ground, and right there strips the football out. Tremendous effort by the senior. The chemistry of your team, Mark, you can tell is at an all-time high when your seniors are playing the best football, and the biggest effort players on your team are your seniors.
Yeah, seniors usually leading the self-policing element of the team.
That was a tremendous effort. Another turnover by the Iowa defense and special teams. Fourth of the day.
First down and 10 for the Hawkeyes. They look for the option. Wide open is Brad Banks. And Jermel Lewis couldn't get it to him. And a flag on the play. Brad Banks.
I'm not sure they're not going to pick this flag up and say it was an uncatchable ball. They don't. They signal Minnesota there for pass interference. Mark, let's see if that ball was catchable. See Jermel Lewis on the throwback to the quarterback. Yeah, I think it was catchable. I think it's a good call because Justin Fraley never made a play on the football. You see him going right there to make the tackle. Here's the football. Justin, go play the ball. Don't play the man. And that's why he had to pass interference. But the reason he went and played the man, he was behind in the race, Mark, and he had to panic.
First down and goal. And they whistle it dead, but you saw Banks' reaction. He was smiling, thinking about perhaps what could have been with an accurate throw from Jermel Lewis. And Lewis perhaps saying, my bad, I owe you one. Brad Banks, a great all-around athlete. Timeout Minnesota. Not only a great athlete, but a tremendous leader. Heisman Trophy, you betcha. We'll talk about it coming up next.
Mark, you see Floyd over there on the sideline. He's thinking about one thing. He's looking for some grass or something to eat. He hasn't looked up and paid attention to the game all day. He could care less, man. He just wants some good old grass. Looks like he's going to be back in Iowa City feeding for the next year.
Yeah, thinking about where he's going to be going after this game. First down and goal for the Hawkeyes. Lewis up down at the line of scrimmage. Let's go back to Reese.
Mark, I don't know if I mentioned it today. Have I mentioned Purdue has a tendency to turn the ball over? Against Michigan State, up 31-30. Brandon Kears, oh, little bobble and a pick by Thomas Ripe. 4 turnovers on the day, 32 on the season, and now a 5th turnover on the day. 36-31, Spartans for the lead.
With plenty of football to go there, and of course the big one today in Champaign, Illinois hosting Ohio State. That game on ABC. Second down and goal. On the option, Banks to Lewis. Stops short at about the 1-yard line. Nice tackle by Justin Isom.
Iowa with the zone option. Bradley Vance takes away the quarterback. Brad Banks pitches it. You're going to see a great hit right here by Justin Isom. Form tackle right there. Give Minnesota credit. Still selling out. This is a great effort play by Isom right here, the strong safety.
Just head across the bow and made the stop. 3rd and goal.
This is a Hawkeye party right now in this Metrodome, Mark. These fans are having a great time from Iowa.
Some 20,000 of them making the trip. Wide open. Incomplete. He threw it behind Cervantes. Brad Banks wishes he could have it back.
But Brad Banks gets some pressure right here by Ben West. Throws the football behind Cervantes. Brad Banks would like to have it back, but I'll tell you who would really like to have it back is Cervantes, because he doesn't get an opportunity, Mark, to score many touchdowns.
They have been featuring him a little bit in the game today, Bob, something that we haven't seen a lot of.
You know, Brad Banks has had more pressure on him today and has made more erratic throws today, Mark, than we've seen in several weeks.
Looking here to put an exclamation point on their successful season.
Are you thinking bootleg right here with Banks?
You got it. They run the reverse to Brown. And he's stopped up short. The Gopher defense responding in a big way. And they keep him out of the end zone, keeping their hopes alive. Eli Ward, one of the first ones to get there.
Difficult on the goal line to run a reverse because you know pressure's coming. But you see the reverse, they come around to CJ. Good play right there by Minnesota. What you like, look at all the purple shirts around the football. Even though it's a 38-21 football game, look at the emotion on the sideline. You got to be proud, Mark, of this Minnesota defense and this Minnesota football team for keeping them out of the end zone right there.
That's something we saw on film earlier this week when watching them. They run the ball real well defensively. Abdul Khalik. Incomplete, intended for Ben Utek. 2nd down and 10.
The thing you notice with Minnesota, not great speed, particularly at the wide receiver position. There you see him putting Ben Utek out wide. A converted wide receiver playing tight end. Good speed for a tight end, but not for a wide receiver. One thing about Ben Utek, Mark, they tell me he's a great singer. He and Nystrom, the field goal kicker, actually sing at like big-time events.
Yep.
Sing the national anthem. He's too high-priced to sing for the team. It costs too much to hire those guys to sing for their own football team.
You can't sell out for nothing, you know.
Well, I mean, you know, at some point, give it up for your teammates, all right?
Hey, it's show biz, not show friends. Incomplete and a fumble. Close comes up with the loose ball. 1st and goal, Hawkeyes. An egregious turnover by Minnesota.
You're going to see Colin Cole right here, Mark. One-on-one, impossible for a center to block a shaded nose guard one-on-one. You're going to see what a difficult task, particularly for a freshman center. One-on-one, difficult assignment. He forces the football loose. And Jared Klaus, number 90, comes up. Once again, the balance of this football team. The offense didn't get it in on 4th down, but the defense comes back, Mark, and makes the turnover. We have seen it each and every week.
1st and goal. Cervantes up top. Short of the end zone. Inches away. We've seen him touch the ball this afternoon, Bob, more times than he's touched it in all the games cumulatively adding up to this afternoon.
And it's amazing how fullbacks around the country are in a similar situation. Fullbacks never touch the football anymore in college football.
2nd and goal. Banks kept it himself. Touchdown, Iowa. Brad Banks says, I'll hook this one up myself.
We're going to get a 15-yard penalty coming in here late, I believe, for some unsportsmanlike conduct.
Brad Banks with several cousins that play D1 football on other teams. His cousin on this team, C.J. Jones, Anquan Bolden, a cousin of his at Florida State. Boy, they're going to have some good stuff to talk about at those family barbecues and picnics this offseason. It's against Minnesota.
Frustration, Mark. Minnesota's defense forced to go right back on the field. No excuse for it, but frustration because Minnesota's offense inept and not able to take advantage of that big stop Minnesota had a series ago.
Kading in for the extra point as Iowa marches on towards an undefeated conference schedule. Brad Banks, number 7, the trigger man.
He's having fun. You look at that big smile on his face over there. Starting for the first time. This is a new experience for him. That's a great story in college football. A senior, his first year as a starter, taking his football team to 11 wins.
We're here at the Metrodome in Minnesota. Number 5, Iowa, taking on the Golden Gophers. I'm Mark Jones along with Bob Davey, Holly Rowe patrolling the sidelines. Brad Banks has led the offense to the tune of 419 total yards. It started early. They came out on the opening drive and in just a few plays marched it into the end zone. Running it with Fred Russell, then throwing the ball to Maurice Brown with his 10th touchdown catch of the season. Clinton Solomon, the freshman, got in on the action, and he's got good reason to smile because he continues to ascend the Heisman charts.
Mark, I'm going to take this one because right here, 386 yards rushing. He averages 13 yards every time they call a run. I go with Brad Banks because these guys are great quarterbacks. But if I'm defending someone, I like this stat right here that they do not run with the football. So I go with Brad Banks because he can beat you with his legs and his arm.
What about his NFL prospects, Bob? What do you think?
I like him. I like him. Doesn't have the strongest arm, but man, he's got a lot of intangibles going for him, Mark.
People will say that maybe he's a touch on the short side at 6'1", but he can throw, he can lead. At the 7-yard line is Mays. Let's go back to Reese in the studio.
All right, Martin, Michigan and Wisconsin. Michigan finishes off the Badgers' 5th straight time they've beaten them. We showed you this touchdown earlier. It turned out to be the game winner. John Navarre finding Braylon Edwards, and the Wolverines headed to Columbus, a 21-14 winner over Wisconsin.
All right, Reese, and Wisconsin, a big one against Minnesota next week, a game we'll be doing. First down and 10 for the Gophers. Asad Abdul-Khalik starting the offense. It's all about the pig now. Floyd of Rosedale, the trophy they're playing for. Asad Abdul-Khalik stopped up by Klaus at the 15-yard line.
Mark, Iowa's not turned the football over all day. You see baby Floyd right there.
What happened?
Well, I think he's going to turn Floyd over. He turned Floyd over. That's the first turnover today by Iowa. This guy is sick. He just lost his pride and joy. Look, there he goes, Floyd back. But 5 turnovers created today by Iowa's defense, 21 points, and he is a happy man. Floyd is back.
No, it's Floyd of Rosedale.
I know, I'm going with Floyd, though.
Very regal and royal sounding, you know? 2nd and 11. It's been a real pig out today for the Iowa offense. Getting fat on points, especially on the ground. It's the Miller High Life storyline. 319 running yards.
Impossible when you're the underdog to turn the football over 5 times, Mark, and win the game, obviously. Give Minnesota credit for playing hard, just not playing real efficient today.
Tough part of the schedule for the Golden Gophers, in fairness to them. Last week, Michigan, before that, Ohio State, and they finish up with 2 tough rivalry games. Iowa today, the pass incomplete, and then next week at Wisconsin. A daunting task ahead for them. Well, coming up after the game, it's College Game Day now, presented by Acura with Reese Davis. We'll check in live on other action Ohio State taking on Illinois in Champaign, and Trev Alberts talks about the SEC race.
2 games today I've got a little feel about. Ohio State at Illinois. I'm nervous if I'm Ohio State, and Texas at Texas Tech in Lubbock. Cliff Kingsbury playing in Lubbock. The tortillas will be flying. 2 upset picks today, Mark.
Abdul Khalid complete out to the 33-yard line. Burns on the catch.
I think Glenn Mason has done a great job here at Minnesota. In his 6th season in Minnesota, was the Big 8 Coach of the Year, I believe, at Kansas. Comes up in here in the Big Ten, has done a tremendous job. I know it's difficult right now because they're going to have their 3rd loss in a row. They are still coming out of this, though, a 7-4 football team.
A lot of people around the country would be happy with that. Cole up front just wreaking havoc, lacerating that offensive line of Minnesota's. Colin Cole out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We have an injured player down in the field. Let's go back to Reese in the studio for an update. Michigan State Purdue, a shootout, Reese.
It has been a shootout all afternoon long. 4th and 4 for the Boilermakers, down 36-31. Brandon Kearse in a world of trouble and gets out of it when he finds Anthony Chambers. I think Anthony might have gotten away with a little push right there. No call. Touchdown good. Purdue back on top by a single.
Get the feeling that's one of those games. Team with the ball last could end up winning it. Purdue has had a lot of close shaves this year. Let's take one more look at how this last play evolved.
Mark, this is an awful looking injury. You're going to see Colin Cole right here fall on the knee.
Yeah, number 1 on the play, Keith
Matthews. Boy, that's an awful looking injury.
This is senior day. Matthews, though, a sophomore, and 12 Gopher players playing their last game at home here. Football, one of those games where, unfortunately, you can get rolled up on like that a lot.
Mark, you see the number 71 on the jersey right there. Minnesota in recognition of one of their teammates. Earlier in the season, we talked to Glenn Mason, got the phone call, every coach's, every parent's worst nightmare.
2nd down and 11. Brandon Hall was tragically shot and killed earlier this season after a win on a Saturday night. Glenn Mason had to deal with the phone call that has to go out to the parents. And it was arguably the toughest thing that he's ever had to do. And when you talk about 18 to 23-year-old student athletes, it's tough for them to experience something like that.
Very difficult, goes without saying, situation. Minnesota chartered an airplane, took their entire football team over to the funeral.
And an interception. Number 20, Antoine Allen, coming up with the pick, intended for Aaron Hosek, which brings up an interesting prospect with the great defense, solid offense of Iowa. If they played the Buckeyes, those 2 teams hooked up, who'd tackle who? Who'd win? We'll talk about it when we come back. We are back at the Metrodome in Minneapolis, Minnesota, looking at the object of the affections of both Minnesota and Iowa today. Floyd of Rosedale, a rivalry and a trophy they've played for since 1935, and so far it looks like it's going to be Iowa, leading 45-21. I'm Mark Jones, along with Bob Davey, Holly Rowe down in the field. This is Jamel Lewis jumping over defenders out to the 24-yard line. Don't forget, coming up later on ABC, number 2 Ohio State taking on Illinois in Champaign. Number 3 Texas against Texas Tech. North Carolina, Florida State, and Washington against number 22 Oregon. That game coming up in about 18-20 minutes time. And Ohio State also undefeated in the Big Ten. How do these 2 teams match up, Iowa and Ohio State? Well, we're glad you asked, just like that. I don't see where Ohio State's defense, as good as it is, Bob, could slow down Iowa offensively because they're so diverse. But just in case you're wondering how the teams would match up and how it would all play out, well, we're going to help you out on that, just like Jamel Lewis is doing here for the Iowa offense. Ohio State and Iowa don't meet on the field this year, but in cyberspace, Sega hooked it up for us. Here's how it went. At the big horseshoe, Banks hit Maurice Brown for a touchdown to the 1 yard, actually down to the 1, and then Nate Kading knocked through the field goal. Kading looks bigger on video, doesn't he, Bob?
Huge shoulder pads.
Iowa goes up 10-0.
Banks looks stiffer than he really is.
Nice touchdown pass there, though, to Dallas Clark. And then Krenzel, he looks a little more built and buff, too, into the end zone to Chris Gamble. And then the final ended 10-7 in the world of Sega. Thanks to our friends from Sega for hooking that game up for us. And this is Marcus Schnorr on the carry. Number 23, let's go downstairs to Holly.
Well, guys, the Iowa team set a goal early in the season to be the most physical in the Big Ten. They decided that the road to the Rose Bowl started in the weight room. So this team has become one of the most well-conditioned, one of the strongest in the Big Ten, and they pride themselves on it. Each and every day when they walk out of their weight room, above the door it said the road to the Rose Bowl begins here. These players have believed it in there, and now they're believing it, getting it done on the field. Thanks, guys.
And I'll tell you who spent the most time in that weight room are these offensive linemen. 3 of these offensive linemen came in as tight ends. Can you imagine, Mark, the hours in that weight room of going from 230, 240 pounds to 300 pounds over the course of their career?
Unbelievable development. Gallery, Steinbeck, Nelson, Lightfoot, David Porter, 4 of those guys senior. Gallery back next year. Let's go back to Reese in the studio.
North Carolina State and Virginia Wolfpack again going for their 10th win, down 14-9. 4th down play, under 30 seconds to go. Phillip Rivers to the end zone, and once again, the Wolfpack denied. Virginia, by the way, now bowl eligible. They win at 14-9.
All right, Reese, and we have a flag on the play back here. There's one of the offensive linemen we're talking about.
Following the play, dead ball, personal foul, Iowa. After the 15-yard penalty, chains will be set, 1st and 10.
Don't forget, coming up immediately following the game, College Game Day Now, presented by Acura. That's coming up next. Brad Banks is coming out of the ball game, and a nice gesture as the coach pulls him out, receiving the applause from the fans here at the Metrodome. A lot of them Iowa fans, some 20,000 strong, that have made the trip along I-80 and I-35. Ochoa getting his second carry, doing his Fred Russell impersonation. Like that, Marcus Schnorr. Jubilant sidelines there, and you know they're having a lot of fun back in Iowa City at the Field House, at Brothers, at Zito's, and all along the pedestrian mall.
Mark, one point I would like to bring up. Today is November 16th, right?
You got it.
They won't play a bowl game until January 1st. Now, I'm not sure, but that's about 45 days of practice time, whatever they want to do. When you put that in comparison with spring ball being only 15 days you're allowed in spring, you can see what a huge advantage it is for this Iowa football team going to a January 1st bowl.
Yeah, you can get some great work done in the meantime and in between time, and Kirk Ferentz has done a good job of keeping his troops on a very short leash this year. That's one of their signatures, keeping them focused on the immediate task at hand, focusing on the opponent at hand.
They've done a great job, and we mentioned that the last step, particularly with so much riding on this game, is sometimes the most difficult step to take. But I was interesting this week. Kirk Ferentz talked to his football team. It's an old Chuck Noll theory. It's like being up on the tightrope. Don't look down and realize what you have at stake, because you might fall. So just keep your eyes straight ahead.
Just like Chandler.
But Mark, I want to get to one more thing. Now, I don't have any candles. I'm not going to sing for you. But today is your birthday.
What an ambush.
And I've got to tell you what, you got ambushed, because for everyone at home, Mark's mother-in-law and father-in-law, who happen to live up here in Minnesota, surprised him today with this great cake. So, Mark, happy birthday.
You gonna help me eat it? I got a crew downstairs.
And I got to give one more secret out. You look a lot younger than you really are.
Thank you, partner. I appreciate it.
So you've got some great genes. You better thank your mom and dad.
Oh, I do every day. All right. Thank you very much. They're down in 13. Maybe share some of this cake with the Hawkeyes down in the field.
Mark, this is a great scene. Iowa coming in here, celebrating on the road. A great season for Kirk Ferentz, and enjoy every second of it.
In just 4 years, that man has orchestrated perhaps the biggest turnaround of all the teams in D1 college football. Kirk Ferentz with an Iowa school record 11th win. We'll hear from him shortly. Holly Rowe right there on the field with Kirk Ferentz and Brad Banks, the man that helped them get there. Let's go downstairs to Holly, who is with the coach.
Coach, let me be the first to present you with the first official Iowa Big Ten Championship t-shirt. Congratulations.
Thanks, Holly. That looks pretty good, I got to tell you. We're a great team, ESPN and Iowa, right?
Absolutely. We've been there with you since the beginning, the close win at Penn State in overtime. Your team has grown and matured as the season progressed, and they're still playing their best ball.
They really are. We're a little sloppy at times today, but I'm not complaining. I'll guarantee you, our guys have grown with each every week, like you said. I couldn't be prouder. Everybody has invested so much. Just a great experience for all these young guys.
It started up front with the offensive line. 4 long years it took you to build this. You lost a lot of games in the process, but what can you say about those seniors on the line?
I'll tell you what, 0-8 wasn't a lot of fun, a few years back, but to go from 0-8 to 8-0, just so special. It's great for all of our seniors, our linemen, all of our seniors, and all the seniors that came before them, too. Those guys invested a lot also, had a big part in this.
I don't think I'm going on a limb here. We've seen a lot of college football coaches. You have Brad Banks for Heisman is a legitimate candidate that people need to consider.
If they don't, they're crazy. I just know, I've only seen our guy. You look at the numbers. I'm not saying he should win it, but he's got to be a candidate. I mean, who's made more for our team, done more for our team than Brad?
All right. Well, thank you very much. We'll go back up to the booth. Back in a moment with some of the other players.
Both you guys are with us, all right?
All right.
Part of the deal.
Our bosses, you hear that? All right. Thanks very much.
Hey, we'll book our tickets with travel if we have to. A jubilant scene down in the field for the Iowa Hawkeyes, and a time to really revel in the success of the whole program. Kirk Ferentz orchestrated it all. He's one of their own. He learned at the feet of Hayden Fry and came back, took the job 4 years ago. First season, they went 1-10. There were doubters. There were detractors. There were those that thought that it would never get turned around. But you know what? Here they are. And Kirk Ferentz and his troops are saying, how do you like us now? Sitting at 11-1 overall, 8-0. Undefeated in the Big Ten this season. And now they wait to see what happens, what transpires with Ohio State later today on ABC at 3:30 Eastern time as they play Illinois. Let's go downstairs to Holly Rowe.
Brad, nobody knew your name coming into this college football season. How can you describe the ride you've been on in your first and only year as a starter?
It's been real good. I can't hardly hear you too loud, but coming to this season, nobody expected me to do what I do. But thanks to the offensive line and the whole team, I was able to do whatever.
I think one of the real compliments for you, your teammates say you are exactly the same on the first call of the game as you are throwing a game-winning touchdown. Your demeanor in the huddle, your demeanor with your team has really marked this season. How do you explain that?
Well, I guess that's the way I just been brought up. So I just carry it over the field. That's it.
I know this is distracting. They're yelling Heisman, but give us your pitch. Why do you deserve the Heisman, and don't be modest?
I guess because the fans love me.
The fan favorite. I'd be remiss without talking here to Colin Cole, the leader up front on this defense. Colin, this defense has done it all year. So many sacks, so much disruption. What do you say about your teammates?
I think that everybody out here is giving 100%. Unfortunately, we're missing one guy out of here today. One guy lost his grandfather this week, and we're sorry for him. And we want to let him know that this win was for him.
Jonathan Babineau's who you're referring to. Your thoughts go out to him. All season long, the defense and special teams have made key plays at key times. You did it again today, forcing so many turnovers.
defense has been underrated all season, and we finally made a statement, not just this game, but games past, but this game especially.
All right, thanks very much, Carl. Congratulations. Back upstairs to you guys.
It may look like we're in Iowa City, folks, but remember, we are in Minneapolis. But those fans you see on the screen made the trip, some of them driving as long as 5 hours along I-80 and I-35. And for them, it was worth it. The final score, 45-21, Iowa undefeated in Big Ten play. Brad Banks, Heisman, you bet it. Got to consider him. Coming up next, it's College Game Day Now, presented by Acura. There's been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For Bob Davey, Holly Rowe, and the rest of our ESPN gang, I'm Mark Jones. Reese Davis, it's all about the pig. Back to you.
It is, Mark. You play a little harder when Floyd of Rosedale is up for grabs. Iowa, a share of the Big Ten championship at the worst. Glad to have you with us on College Game Day Now.